This is Canada Day Live with Jeremy Bradley, celebrating the country's 150th birthday. JB chats with artists from every province and territory from coast to coast to coast. Spending Canada 150 with us, Alan Doyle, Natalie MacMaster, Jimmy Rankin, Paper Lions, the Trews, Barenaked Ladies, Roch Voisine, Susan Aglukark, Doc Walker, Codie Prevost, Terri Clark, Dean Brody, Welders' daughter, and Jona Barr. Streaming live from the heart of Canada, here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here on Canada Day Live. Thanks for tuning in at canadadaylive.ca. Happy Canuck Day, everybody. Canada 150. It seems like we've just started planning this and hearing about the big festivities this year, and it's now already here. But I hope the excitement and the energy that we have for Canada Day this year is not going to... It's going to be Canada Year. Wouldn't that be really cool if we just celebrate our country every day this way? It would be awesome. We're a very happy people, aren't we? We are. We are a very happy people in this country. But more so, I have seen the energy come out for this whole campaign of Canada 150. So what we're doing on the show today, as you just heard Larson say, a whole bunch of music artists, great musical talent, spanning generations and genres of music from every province and territory in this country are joining us for the next 150 minutes. And we're also going to take a walk down memory lane with our syndicated radio shows called Top of the Charts and The Open Road. 3 times per year, we take the show on the road. And we have had the opportunity to check out so many places in Canada. Nova Scotia, Quebec, Manitoba, Alberta, Yukon, and many places in between. So those are our destination pinpoints this week, or on the show today, that we're going to be checking out and reliving some of those moments. I'll tell you about what I got to experience, and you can even see for yourself and hear some of those interviews. We'll have those details coming up in just a little bit, but we need to get to the celebrity phone because Canada Day Live starts right now. Well, let's get right to the festivities here on Canada Day Live. Our first stop is in Newfoundland, and it's brought to you by PutDownYourDamnPhone.com. That's right, it's a holiday. Spend time with your loved ones, not your phone. If you know someone who can't put down their mobile device, this book is for them. Check out Put Down Your Damn Phone already at PutDownYourDamnPhone.com or on Amazon and iTunes. Alan Doyle is joining us on the line. You know him from his many high-energy performances with Great Big Sea. Actually, the first concert I ever went to, if I'm not mistaken. Happy Canada Day to you.
And to you, sir. Happy Canada Day to you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for chatting with us on the holiday. You know, it's been a few years since I visited Newfoundland. It was the Juno Awards, I think, probably 2009 or 10, but
something like that, yeah.
It's definitely a unique place to visit. So tell us, what is it like to actually live in Newfoundland? I only spent a few days.
Well, I live in the city, in St. John's, and you know, it's a small city, kind of like there's a lot of cities this size around Canada, but St. John's is unique because it's way on the edge, right? It's way on the, not only is it on the island, but it's on the very eastern edge of the island, so it's about as far east as you can go, you know, and so it compared to the rest of the country, it's kind of, it feels a little isolated sometimes in the best kind of way, where you feel like, you know, whatever's going on out here doesn't necessarily mean it's going on anywhere else, and that's one of the biggest reasons to come visit and check it out. You know, for a fellow like me who travels primarily in North America, you know, living this far out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean is troublesome sometimes. Trying to make flights and end up flying more than I'd like, but I dearly love it because it's unique and because I was born here, and I feel like I'm of the place one way or another.
Well, it definitely does feel like it's, and I mean this as a compliment, it's like it's a different world. You say, you know, it's a very small town feel, and Canadians, we know, are friendly, but even friendlier over there in Newfoundland, I think.
We kind of have to be, don't we? I mean, for hundreds of years, this place, you know, was extremely isolated and was a lot of people's last chance to see land, or their first chance to see land when they were crossing the ocean in boats, and it just, we had to welcome people when they were in distress and welcome people when they were, you know, voyaging, and so we became, you know, it was kind of one of our reasons for being here was because we were open-doored, for lack of a better word, and I think when the winter's here, when it's just us, and there ain't no ships coming and going, I think that the people had to look after each other because you couldn't make it on your hard. So I think there were very practical reasons that bred a group of people out here that are both welcoming to visitors and extremely kind and caring about each other.
And the scenery is absolutely beautiful. What I remember was the fog, and when I was in St. John's, I mentioned for the Junos, and I'm trying to remember the name of the hotel, the $1 Million View of the Harbor, Battery Hotel.
Yeah, sure.
Is it?
Yeah.
And
that whole hotel, the lower part of that hotel had a sort of an empty kind of office space. And that's where Great Big Sea recorded 2 of our first records. Were in that old space. We had our studio in there, and so we had a view of St. John's Harbor to make the up record and the play record.
So I did not have a view because I was, I think, the second floor, and I go open the fog the entire time. Like, we're talking right out the window, couldn't see a damn thing.
I always say one of the greatest things about being a Newfoundlander is no matter where you go, the weather is better.
And there's a lot of people, though, that in our country anyway, that think that Toronto is the eastern edge of Canada, which we know clearly is not correct. But let's talk about the music scene there, because there's a whole bunch of pubs, and there's some really awesome music in town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the part of Newfoundland that I'm from, down on the southern shore, as it's called, is very Irish settled, right? And so it's very Celtic influenced, and the instrumentation that people learned to play wasn't pianos and electric guitars first. It was mostly accordions and whistles, and the songs that I was brought up singing weren't necessarily pop songs or rock songs or blues songs. They were shanties and Irish ballads and that kind of stuff, and so it made for, in the Canadian kind of melange of music, it made for something that's really unique, because we weren't heavily influenced by the stuff that was going on in the United States until probably the 80s, so it was just, I was born into a place that had a music of its own.
And Great Big Sea really propelled Newfoundland, or the region's music across the world, though, really, didn't it?
Yeah, we sort of wore it on our sleeve, and it was grateful to do it, to be honest. It was like, Bob Hallett, who always, from Great Big Sea, always said, we have this music that's unique to us. We'd be crazy not to bring it to the rest of the world. But, this is something, our body of work here of our traditional music is something that belongs only to us, and nobody else has this. They all, and it's a calling card that is, and that is wonderful. And on top of that, it's beautiful music, and it's honest music. And I think even when we started writing songs on our own and doing our own stuff, it's just that so heavily influenced the sort of integrity of it. It needs to be something that's true and honest, and I think more importantly, it influenced as a team and a generation of writers that looked inward first. I think all too often, if you're from Iowa, you think you have to sound like you're from Los Angeles, right? Or write a song about a fast car or something, and of course in Newfoundland, all the guys write about being from Newfoundland, and that's beautiful.
And it was 20 years of success, and when you think about that, these days, it's almost unheard of for artists or groups.
Yeah, and it's really, it would be more difficult now. I mean, we came along in Great Big Sea at a time when, in the sort of the early part of the 90s, we were just entering sort of a Celtic wave that was going on across the country. And, the Rankins were doing well, and the Barrs were doing well, and a whole bunch of stuff. And thankfully, the country of Canada was open to it, right? And so those of us that wanted to keep doing it, we already had an audience for it. And it was excellent. And I mean, I'm so grateful to the country of Canada for, turning its ear to what's really a tiny little part of the country and adopting it and accepting it the way they have.
You mentioned earlier about the solo careers, and so many groups split up, and sometimes it can be that, it could be ego, that somebody wants a solo career, or it could just be differences within the group. I mean, you guys rocked the house for 2 decades. So what was it? Was it just that you got older and your priorities changed and maybe wanted to shift and focus on family? What happened?
It's quite simple, really. I mean, the other singer in the band, Sean, wanted to leave the band and quit at the end of the 2013 tour, 20th anniversary tour, and we spent the next 2 years trying to figure a way to come to some arrangement with Sean where the rest of us could continue without him, and we couldn't. We never did come to an arrangement that everyone was happy with, so and it was all headed towards a fight, and it was a fight that I didn't want to have. I said, look, I don't want the last thing we do together is have a fight over who can play a Great Big Sea and who can't. So I kind of walked away from it. I said, look, I'm happy to play Great Big Sea concerts when people are happy to play them. And but if people are not happy to play them, I'll go play my own concerts. Let me know when you want to.
Well, and that's something that I think when groups start, interchanging members and bringing new people in, it's not the same, right? I mean, sometimes it works, but you don't want to risk that, I think.
Yeah, and I think it might have even worked with Great Big Sea too, and that because it's such a continuum of traditional music and all that stuff. But kind of just on a personal level, it's like I really didn't want to fight over it. I didn't want to have, a prolonged racket over who could do what and who didn't want to do that. And I just said, look, I'd much rather spend the next 5 years of my life building my own thing than fighting over the scraps of something. So that was kind of where my personal perspective on it was. And Sean and Bob right now are both doing amazing things, and they're both, I think worked out great for everybody because Sean is doing stuff that's very satisfying for him, and Bob is as well, and so am I, and we all, again, I never closed the door on that. I wouldn't have the heart to do it, and I'm proud of what the guys are doing now, and I'm forever grateful for them for coming to me to join the band with them. Certainly I owe them my entire professional career, without a doubt.
Well, I think even looking at the way you do, right, you'd much rather have the good memories of it coming to an end rather than it just being, all of a sudden 2 decades of just now resentment towards each other. So I think that's great that you looked at it that way.
That's my perspective on it. I didn't, life was too short to spend 5 years fighting over the scraps.
What's your fondest memory of Great Big Sea?
August 3rd, 1993.
Oh, wow. Okay. What was that?
It was the day our first record showed up. I'll never forget it. I was outside my house on Suez Street in St. John's, and we'd recorded the record in May, and we sent it away to get manufactured, and the day before our album launch, it showed up. It got delivered in courier or whatever, and Bob brought one over, and I held a record in my hand that I was on. I couldn't believe it. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
I've been in bands for so long, my uncles and all through college and university and that. And so the Doyle and Petty Harbor had done lots of that stuff, but I really, really wanted to be in a band that had a record. And that would be a thing that no one else had done in my family, and it would feel like I legitimized the whole first, half of my life, really. And that was the big moment, man. I'll never forget it. I was so happy. I was so satisfied. I'm so proud of the guys. And because it was hard to do then. It was way harder to do then than it is now. And it was but we did it, and it was undeniable that it was there, and it was going to be there forever. I loved it.
Did you celebrate with some screech?
We must have. I think back in those days, if I remember correctly, it was the afternoon. It was the day before our album launch, so we wouldn't have had a big night, no, because we would have saved. We had to play the next night. Right. That was and our album launch was the next night, and we would have went deep into the night that night for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, you do have a busy summer because you are going. You've got several appearances. You'll be Toronto and then across the country too, right?
That's right. You got a dozen or more gigs over the summer, chasing some fun festivals and the like, and coming to your neck of the woods actually in around the middle of the summer, I believe, to do something with the games. The summer games that's on in Winnipeg this summer.
The Canada Summer Games, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to be kicking around for that for a night. It'll be fun.
Oh yeah, no, it's the city's ramping up for that as well. So I know you are also doing a lot of writing, not necessarily just music, though, right?
That's right. I started writing books. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Where I Belong, and I just literally today got the final draft and the pages outlined for a new book that's going to come out in the fall called The Newfoundlander in Canada, and it's all about my first journey across the country and what Canada looked like to a fellow from a fishing town who'd never been anywhere.
I was going to say, you can take the Newfoundland out of the guy, but you can't take the guy. I don't even think you can take that out of you. You're there. You're set, right?
Well, I never say never on anything. I try not to anyway, but I've been really lucky in my adult life, right? And traveling mostly for music, and I've seen many of the great cities in the world, and it's so bizarre hard that I've never even been tempted to move to one of them. It's never even crossed my mind. I love it here. I love living in Newfoundland. I love the people, and I love the place, and I love the sense of uniqueness to it, and I've come to love where it is in Canada. I love the fact that people from Saskatchewan and are from the same country as me. I think that's really cool that we have these two, from Manitoba or Nova Scotia, we're places that couldn't be more different physically, yet there's a kinship and a family to it, and I love that about Canada.
I was going to say, I think that's a great way to wrap this up, is that, home is home, and we all love the country. It's great, and especially with what's going on in the world elsewhere, I mean, it's great to be in Canada.
And I love that there isn't some all-Canadian thing that we strive for.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's nobody in Manitoba wants me to be less of a Newfoundlander, no more than there is somebody in New Brunswick who wants someone from BC to not be like they're from BC. Like, they're all part of the family, and it's all part of the supper table, if you will, and everyone gets a seat.
Absolutely. And so I know you're always on social media. Your website has blogs and updates. So how can people stay in touch?
Oh, AlanDoyle.ca. You'll find me. I'm around all the time, sure.
And we'll see you in Winnipeg for the games then, I guess, too.
Yeah, man.
All right, well...
For this.
Well, Alan Doyle, again, happy Canada Day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, and listen, happy Canada Day to you and all your listeners out there. And I can't wait to get back to your neck of the woods and come see us in Newfoundland. Sure, we'll have lots of fun there, too.
We'll see you then. Thanks, Alan.
Cheers.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Joining us on the line now from Spruce Grove, Alberta, by way of Antigonish, Nova Scotia, I should point out, is John Angus MacDonald from the Trews. It's brought to you by Entertainment Wrap-Up. Get your fill of celebrity news and gossip every day at entertainmentwrapup.com. The highs, the lows, mostly the lows, from the celebrity world and the rich and famous at entertainmentwrapup.com. Happy Canada Day to you, John Angus MacDonald.
Happy Canada Day to you, Jeremy.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I know the band is gearing up for the main stage at the big 150 party there in Spruce Grove, right?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Should be a great evening.
Well, I guess that's one thing that we can say about Canada Day, and I guess just Canada as a whole, whether you're at home in Nova Scotia, Toronto, wherever you might live, it is just home. You can celebrate Canada Day anywhere, and it feels like you're home, don't you think?
Yeah, well, most definitely. I mean, Canadians, they seem to have some kind of inner magnet that attracts them to one another. No matter where we go in the world, I'm always so impressed to see Canadian flags. So many Canadians find us no matter where we're playing, and more specifically Nova Scotian flags. A lot of Nova Scotia proud people out there as well. But it's a great thing. It makes us feel right at home no matter where we are.
You mentioned that when I was in Cuba a few years ago, it was almost shocking, actually, to see a Canadian flag on the back of a bus. And then I thought, wow, that's really what people think about our country, though. They're willing to have our flags flying in their own land.
We've played in Dubai to many Canadians. Australia, tons of Canadians in Australia. They come out of the woodwork every time we tour down there. We've been to Cuba to play, believe it or not, since you brought Cuba up, and found Canadians there. We find them everywhere. Down in the South, in the States, over in Japan, Europe. I mean, I don't think there's a single trip the band's taken where we haven't had a Canadian, and even more specifically, an East Coast Canadian, track us down, and they want to buy us a Keith's or take us golfing or show us a good time in the place where they live now. But they miss home. It's like, it's inevitable. Everybody misses home no matter where they find themselves in their situations and lives, and it's one of those things we're happy to fill that void for people wherever we find ourselves.
Let's go back to the coast for a second. I mentioned Nova Scotia at the top. Admittedly, when you think of Antigonish, a place of maybe 10,000 people, I don't even think that.
Yeah, less. When I was there, it was about 5. I mean, it swelled to about 4 times that size during the St. FX school season when the university was in session. But yeah, about 5,000 people live there year-round. And
there's a Boston Pizza, from what I understand.
There is now, but I wasn't there when I was growing up. It was all about the wheel. Like, the wheel is their sort of like calling card in the pizza department. It's world famous. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame to see some of those big box leagues moving in, but it's the inevitable stampede of progress.
But it's interesting, though, that people on the East Coast, we've had Alan Doyle on our show from Great Big Sea, from Newfoundland, and Natalie MacMaster, PEI, but there is just something about the East that is a gem to this country. And if people have not gone there, I know when I was there for Newfoundland for the Junos several years ago, you feel like you're in a different country, but it's still Canada, but it's still so different, don't you think?
I think that about Canada in general. I feel like it's a loose affiliation of many different places and ways to live. I'm glad that we did it the way we did, and I'm glad we can call the whole place our home and the whole place our country. But every little area has a really unique and distinct way of doing life, and the East Coast is a huge example of that. Definitely, laid back, low key. Depending on where you are, if you're very rural, it's extremely undeveloped. And I say that in a good way. It's nice to be able to get away to places like that where you feel like you're still in some untouched land,
Let's talk about the music scene in rural Nova Scotia. 5,000 people maybe. What was the music scene like when you guys were getting started? Because you've been together since, even before 2000, right? 1990.
Yeah, we got together in the 97. I was 15, maybe 14.
Right.
We were me and my brother Colin, who's a singer, and Jack, who's been there since day one, our bass player. We were super young, just 14, 15, 16 years old, starting our little rock group on the East Coast. We were the scene there at the time. There was the sort of hangover of the Halifax grunge movement, the sort of Seattle East thing that went on. We didn't really feel any of that. We were a little too young, and we lived too far away. Antigonish is 2 hours from Halifax, so you're really out in the boondocks compared to the big city of Halifax. So it was traditional music all around us in every direction. And at the time, I think we pushed it away. Being angsty teenagers that we were, we wanted to play rock and roll, and we wanted to play it loud and hard and heavy. But in hindsight, it seeped in all kinds of inevitable ways, and I'm really glad that it did. The community of the traditional scene is what really strikes me as being so unique and beautiful, a wonderful thing. It's such a community-oriented thing where everybody in the kitchen is invited to grab an instrument and get involved and play. And normally everybody can, but they put a lot of other parts of the world to shame in that talent department. And that sort of aspect that everybody's in it together. It's not a huge star culture on the East Coast, which I kind of miss sometimes. Everybody's involved. Everybody's making music together, and it's a big party, and everybody's invited and welcome. And that's probably what I like the most about it.
I imagine it's a big change, though, when you go from playing smaller, and I'm going to use the word intimate venues, but with rock music, as intimate as you can get, but to now you're playing stages where you have more people there watching your concert than in your hometown, basically. So what is that like now? Because you're taken into a much bigger spectrum at that point.
Yeah, well, I think, as you go as a band, you sort of recalibrate what it means to be successful, and that just continues. It's almost like a never-ending process. When we were kids, starting out, we just wanted the girl we had a crush on to show up at the show. It didn't matter if there was 10 people there, as long as she was there, or he was, as long as the popular, whatever it was. Your ambitions are strange when you're 15 or whatever.
Right.
For us, it was a big series of baby steps, I think, that led us to the place we are now. We always took things sort of in stride, and we just tried to keep our focus on the music and pleasing ourselves and the people that were in the audience with us. So that's just been a gradual thing like that, to the point where then you realize, it's amazing to be here. Every now and again you have I guess you call them pinch me moments, where you're oh, never would have thought that it would have led me here, but I'm sure glad it did.
So you mentioned these pinch me moments. I want you to name drop for a second, because you guys have worked and played and toured with, or whatever, lots and lots of really big names. So name some of those for us.
Well, we've shared the stage with so many of our heroes. We've been really, really lucky in that department. The Rolling Stones invited us to open for them in Toronto in 2006, right around our second album. We went on tour with Robert Plant. around that time, and Guns N' Roses and Kiss and Aerosmith, and it's a pretty long list of Cheap Trick, people we've been lucky enough to collaborate with in one way or another.
Springsteen.
Springsteen, Bruce Springsteen. Forgot about it.
No, you can't forget Bruce, no.
Yeah, he invited us up on stage. Actually, that was near to home. We did a show at Magnetic Hill,
right
outside of Moncton, a big festival show, and we met him just before he went on, and he invited us on stage. He said, come out in the encore. We're going to do Twist and Shout. We're like, what? Really? What? Okay, better start pacing ourselves, boys. Start watering the drinks down a little bit. But we ended up on stage with him. Some sort of magical things that sort of have come our way over the years. In between a lot of waiting around and riding on buses and flying around on planes, but those are the moments that are really they sort of jump out.
I was going to say you could almost put them into a time capsule, huh? See what did you get?
Nice segue. I like that one.
I mentioned it. Give that a quick plug for everybody. Tell time capsule.
Yeah, our latest release, our label sort of called for a greatest hits album, which kind of blindsided us. We had no idea. I don't feel like we've been around long enough to have one of those, but I guess we have. 15 years can go by in a blink. So here we are, with 5 studio albums and a couple of live albums and an EP out. So we just combed all the records and tried to put together a good playlist that's sort of representative of what we've been up to this past 15 years. And we put 4 new songs on there just to sort of point the way forward and let people know that we aren't packing it in. We got a long road ahead of us. But this is a good little stopgap. And I think in the age that we live in, it's a good starting point. If people want to check the band out that haven't yet, this is a good place to start. It's a good collection of what we've been doing since we started.
Well, I know they're checking you out in Spruce Grove for the Canada Day Bash. You guys are closing out the night, from what I understand.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I mean, I think this year this is going to be the biggest Canada Day party we've had yet in our 150 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope everybody's out in full force to enjoy it.
And where can everybody stay in touch with the band? You guys are on social media and all those places, right?
Yeah, just if you Google the Trews, you'll find it all there. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the website. It's all there. Check it all out.
Well, I will let you get back to the band because you guys have a big show coming up. Happy Canada Day to you and the guys. Pass along my wishes to them.
Yeah, happy Canada Day to you as well.
All right, John Angus MacDonald from the Trews, live from Spruce Grove, Alberta. This is Canada Day Live.
Trans fat-free, gluten-free, and only 10 calories per serving. It's the Scribble Podcast with Jeremy Bradley. Every week, JB serves up a dash of humor with a side of sarcasm at thescribbleshow.com. From current events to scandalous entertainment stories, The Scribble is 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. With cheapskate tips and celebrity guests, JB keeps you informed about what's not important in the world. The Scribble Podcast at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
The only guy who tries to leave Canadian Tire money as a tip. Here's your host of Canada Day Live, Cheapskate, Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Not only are we celebrating music here on Canada Day Live, but we are also celebrating the country as a whole, right? Canada 150, this is a huge celebration. And for part of our syndicated radio shows, we have had the opportunity to broadcast from a whole bunch of different places in Canada. Nova Scotia, Quebec, Manitoba, Alberta, Yukon, and we're going to be reliving some of those memories today on the show, and you can also check out some of the highlights online at canadadaylive.ca. So with Nova Scotia, we were there 5 years ago for my 30th birthday show. I know it doesn't look like I'm going to be 35 this year, but I am. Actually 1 month from today. August 1st is my birthday. But I spent my 30th birthday all over Nova Scotia, and when you think of that province, a lot of people think you go to Halifax. we actually didn't spend any time in Halifax at all, and we just zigzagged all over the province for about 4 or 5 days, and we met some really cool people. Rural life was not for me at the beginning, but I have to say, I was converted. They changed me there in Nova Scotia, and we met some great people, but we also did some really fun things. Tidal bore rafting. I had never heard of that before, but definitely you go when the tide comes in and you are covered in brown water and you're riding the rapids in a sense. We've got the highlights again, CanadaDayLive.ca. Click on Around Canada and you can see the fun there. I also did some clam digging. Never would I have thought I would have spent a sunset on the water digging clams, but I was in my rubber boots, I had my claw hammer kind of thing, and I was digging clams, and I got a pailful. And some people actually gave me theirs just because they felt bad that it was my birthday and all, and I wasn't able to find any clams. We also checked out Lunenburg. If you've seen a dime in Canada, you know the boat that is on it. Well, I got to see the iconic boat that was getting some work done. It was getting a facelift, if you will, but still very iconic. I had no idea that it was there, and with our tour guide, we just happened to come around a corner, and she's like, oh, by the way, do you know what that boat is? And I really didn't. Once she told me what it was, then it all made sense. One of the funniest moments ever, though, during our travel broadcasts, and we've broadcast from, like I say, all these places in Canada. We've done Puerto Vallarta 4 times, Houston, coming up in a few weeks, we'll be in Indianapolis, Indiana. But one of the fondest memories I have from a travel show is in Nova Scotia, and I've got to tell you this story. I love the fact that tourism boards are so welcoming, the people in town are great as well, and we had a student intern who was escorting me to go to an activity, and he was given sort of strict orders to kind of follow the schedule that we have. Don't go off our schedule. Don't go off a different road than you're supposed to go on. Like, it was very mapped out. I think he was excited, but also kind of nervous. There's a bit of an expectation that's put on him, especially when he's transporting media. And we were early where we were going. We were making good time, and we passed a mini golf place. And it was fairly early in the morning. It wasn't like before sunrise, but it was at a gas station and there was a mini golf. And I had said to him, let's go mini golfing. We've got time. And he looked at me and he was almost like deathly afraid, because I think in his head he was going, that's not on the schedule. I don't know. Can we do that? And I assured him, I said, you know what? I'm in charge on this trip. Like, I'm the boss. We're doing my show here. It's fine. You're not going to get in trouble if I said we're going mini golfing. And, I wasn't pressuring him in any way. And you could tell that he wanted to do it because he's, teen or early 20s. So he's like, yeah, why not? And it was probably one of the funniest moments because it wasn't on our schedule. It wasn't planned. It was just this side of the highway truck stop with a mini golf place in the back. And we had so much fun. We were going, taking a bunch of pictures of each other, doing silly things on the golf course, and it was a really good time. So the point of the story is that Nova Scotians made us feel so welcome. As I said, we zigzagged all over the province, checking out the Bay of Fundy and Lunenburg and just some really historic places as well. We went kayaking, we had a picnic on the water. It was just incredible. So again, the highlights are at CanadaDayLive.ca. If you want to go to the direct link, it's novascotia.jbonair.com. novascotia.jbonair.com.
Wall free for 150 years. Happy birthday, Canada. You're listening to Canada Day Live with Jeremy Bradley.
Canada Day Live continues here. Jeremy Bradley at the controls. Thanks for tuning in at CanadaDayLive.ca. We're continuing our cross-country celebration now with a stop in PEI, and it's brought to you by Multiple Sarcasm, a new book shining light on the ridiculous and making you laugh when you're sick of constant political news from you-know-where. Well, what's it like crashing a backyard karaoke party or traveling with a train wreck colleague who insists on drama at every turn? Stories that achieve the ultimate climax in the new book at multiplesarcasm.com and on Amazon and iTunes. Natalie MacMaster, probably one of the most famed Canadian fiddlers, if I can say that, from Prince Edward Island, joining us on the line. Hi, Natalie.
Sounds lovely to me.
Well, happy Canada Day. Thanks for spending the holiday with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. We're just excited and everything's great here.
We'll talk about our great country in a bit, but let me start with the fiddle, because it's not an instrument most people have an interest in playing. You've not only mastered it, you've slayed it. So when did that start? Where did your love of the fiddle come from?
Well, my environment, growing up in Cape Breton, being the daughter of many and Alec MacMaster, having the ancestry behind me, my relatives coming from Scotland, and my relatives and cousins, and of course my famous Uncle Buddy MacMaster, all being a part of my environment, I just heard that music very, very often, like every day, sometimes live, sometimes just on recorded, could be an actual record or a cassette tape. And I grew up with it, and when we had functions on in the community, it was always based on the traditional music. So I think for any child growing up in that environment, you couldn't help but get a taste for that style of music, and in particular the fiddle, because it was all played on the fiddle.
It's very East Coast, though, but it certainly transcends, across the country, and as you've experienced, around the world, I think.
Oh, for sure. I'm always amazed and proud and humbled all at the same time at how I can play this music from little old Cape Breton, and I certainly feel like it's little old Cape Breton, our little nook in the world, in the big, beautiful world, and then people hear it that have never heard it before, and they just get it. It translates. It gets them excited.
Cape Breton, definitely a beautiful place. If somebody hasn't been there before, give us sort of like a tourist type version. What, like, one or two things should we expect to experience there?
Well, you need to experience the music, because with the music you're going to get a real sense of the people and the environment. And so you should go to a square dance. A square dance is a real cool thing. You could go to West Mabu on Saturday nights. Theirs go all through the year. Or Glencoe on Thursdays in the summertime, or Brook Village on Mondays. And there are others as well, some regular ones through the week. And you could probably find one pretty well every night of the week through the summer. You should also go to a local community concert, because that's where you'll hear different varieties of music, whereas opposed to the dance is just usually one fiddler and piano player. And then you should go probably up Shetticamp Way, the fishing village, and go whale watching, or something really that really showcases the nature and the beautiful landscape and the ocean. That should do it. And of course, you might even poke your head in at my mother and father's place. They have an open door policy.
Well, okay, so if that's an invite, Natalie MacMaster, I'm hearing that as an official invite. Let's do a road trip. Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh my gosh, my mom does. She says to me every once in a while, she says, "Natalie, don't be too friendly. We get piles of people in here."
But, that does go, and that does say something about the East Coast, friendliness and the mentality that the people have there, right? It is just a small community and everybody's welcome.
Oh my gosh, yes. She would cut her arms off before she would ever make anyone feel like they couldn't come in, before she'd ever make someone feel like not welcome. She would bend over backwards, and I keep saying to her, "Well, Mom, you give them tea and sandwiches. Of course they're going to come back."
It's like when you feed those stray cats, right? They keep coming back. They've learned.
That's right.
So what you're suggesting is we're going to save a lot, because we're not going to have to pay for the hotel. We're not going to have to. We're going to eat. We're going to sleep. It's going to be a good time. All right, watch for that later this summer, everybody. Okay? No, I'm just kidding. Not to put Mom on the spot, but. But, there definitely is something about East Coast music, the Celtic music, and I'm going to try to make a comparison. It might fail, but it would be like poutine in Quebec, Celtic music and the East Coast, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, but even more so, I know what you mean. They associate the poutine with Quebec. Yes, for sure. I mean, it's definitely associated. When I travel around, down the States and those places, and people hear them from Cape Breton, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I hear there's a lot of fiddle music there." They associate the fiddle with Cape Breton.
And this might be hard to pinpoint, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. What has been the highlight of your career up to this point?
I actually really like being on the spot.
Okay, all right.
There are many different elements of the career, right? There's performing, so I could pick one of my top best that comes to my mind almost instantly when I think of best performance was one I did in Germany when I was in my early 20s. And I was shocked at the amount of people, and I was shocked at how they thought I was some sort of a rock star by the way they were jumping and screaming and mosh pitting, and it was nuts. So I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying, like, Germany really likes Celtic music, or certainly that festival did. Then there's the world of honors. You know, the honors that come across your way when you're not even thinking about those sorts of things, by way of awards and honorary doctorates, the Order of Canada, those things, and of course the Order of Canada was probably the pinnacle of that. And then there's opportunities, like really incredible opportunities. I can remember being on Sesame Street, mind you, it was the Canadian version, so it was called Sesame Park, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've really made it. And when you're hanging out with the puppets. So, and all the different, I did like really cool commercials, the milk ad campaign. I was on all the milk cartons for a few months in Nova Scotia, and those things really stand out to me. They're like, it's just such an exciting journey.
Oh, absolutely. So, the Order of Canada, that's got to pay well. Trudeau's treating you good with that, right?
No, it was just, you just receive it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a huge honor, though, because it certainly does say something about your life and career and how the country views it, right?
Yeah, and you know, I don't ever pat myself on the back, so I still don't, but, you know, you get things like that, and I never, you know, I certainly don't put myself anywhere near some of those people that have received the Order of Canada, that have come up with, you know, cures for illnesses and things like that. But it's nice that our country sees the value in simple things too. I mean, me being a violinist or a fiddler, like, it's not like I'm saving lives, but, you know, in a sense, it's teamwork, right? Mm-hmm. You have to appeal to a person's soul too. And I know that music does that, and it's just nice that they're very they cover a wide spectrum of things, for lack of a better word, with that Order of Canada for accomplishments. They cover a wide spectrum of accomplishments from different people, and it's nice to know that fiddle sneaks in there too.
Well, it's certainly, yeah, it's a great celebration of Canadian talent. And so what's on tap this year? You're in Prince Edward Island for the holidays. What's happening for Canada Day?
Well, for me, you know, I still get the biggest charge out of putting together musicians, playing music, writing, all those things. I said to my husband the other day, I said, it's a wonderful feeling. I'm never completely satisfied. I can't whet my appetite enough when it comes to music. Like, I just want to chew and chew and chew on it. Like, I want more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And so it's great to be able to play Canada Day. We have some awesome musicians with us, some PE Islanders included, of course, JJ Chesson from the famous Chesson family, and then my own Mac Morin from PEI. And then we have a couple of cool dudes from Toronto, Mr. Elmer Ferrer and Ben Whitman on guitar and drums, and also a local bass player named Remy Arsenault. And so I'm very excited to play with all of them.
Let's talk about your kids, because talent, as you've said, has run through the generations, and also your family. They are taking over the States. Is that maybe too big of a expectation? They've been on NBC, right? They've been on American television.
They were on American television, yeah. We got a call here, I suppose it was a year ago, or maybe a little bit more, and it was from the people at Little Big Shots, which I hadn't heard of at the time, but it's basically a kids' talent show with a major focus on the host, Steve Harvey. Mm-hmm. And so, my gosh, when we got off the phone, they were inquiring. They wanted to inquire about the possibility of us going on the show. They'd seen the kids on YouTube. And so my husband and I talked about it, and we were both kind of like, no, I don't think we should do that. They're not old enough to enter into that world of officially performing or
show business,
making a career of it and all that sort of thing. I mean, if they want to do that, great. a little shy because right now they're pretty young, and Mary Frances was their oldest, and she was 10 then. So, so we kind of we didn't know what to do. Anyway, so we ended up at some point just saying, I don't think we'll do it. So we kind of turned it down, and then they changed a couple of things, and we ended up saying, okay. Janelle and I figured if it's coming around again, then we should probably do it, because it is. We recognized what an awesome opportunity was and what an experience it would be. And so we went for that, and we went down, and when we got down there, let me tell you, we had spent our days practicing our little number, which is normally 8 minutes. We had to get it down to 2 minutes. And when we got down there, we realized, oh my gosh, we didn't really talk too much about the fact that these kids would be doing interviews with this Steve Harvey. And so that was really, then it was like, okay, guys, it's no longer time to be polite. If you want to run up and jump on the couch and pull his ears, I think they'd like that. It'll give them something to talk about and laugh at. And so our kids were very well behaved and very polite, and we were very proud of them. But there was definitely no jumping on the couches. Although I will say, for the interview, they really focused on our 3-year-old Alex, because I guess he was the least shy, or shall we say respectful.
Right.
And anyway, and then they did their number, and I was very proud of them. They all did a great job with the fiddle and dance, and we had an excellent time. We were there for a week, and Steve Harvey was amazing.
I'm going to put you on the spot again. Let's picture it. We're sending the kids away for the weekend. It's all about you, Natalie MacMaster. Where in Canada do you go, and what do you do during that time? Just Natalie time.
Well, how long do I have? A day?
We'll give you a weekend. You've earned it. We'll give you a weekend.
Okay, thanks. I'll take the weekend, and I suppose I would go to Cape Breton. I'd like to divide it up is what I'd like to do. I wouldn't be at the spa. I wouldn't be on a beach somewhere. I wouldn't be doing nothing. I'd be doing a bunch of stuff. I would probably go to Cape Breton for a day and go to a square dance and spend my afternoon learning tunes, playing tunes. And then the next day I would maybe come up to back to, I go into Toronto, and there's great musicians there that I really want to play with, and I'd sit down and I'd write music. That's what I'd do. Isn't that boring?
No, but it's your passion, right? So you enjoy it, and it's just like a writer, right? They might on the weekends spend their time writing while other people are at clubs, but it's what they live for. So no, I think that's great.
That's true, and the day-to-day that we live here, to squeak out that time where you can sit and focus to learn is very rare. I have to organize it. I have to sometimes get a babysitter over or leave the house or something to go to that effort. So, yeah, I would do that.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and happy Canada Day to you, Natalie.
Oh, happy Canada Day to you.
Still to come, Jimmy Rankin, Paper Lions, Roch Voisine, Barenaked Ladies, Doc Walker, Susan Aglukark, Welders' Daughter, Codie Prevost, Terri Clark, Dean Brody, Jona Barr. This is Canada Day Live.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Determined to make an igloo in the backyard today. Can someone tell him it's July in Canada? At least wait until September for some snow. Your host of Canada Day Live, Jeremy Bradley.
Canada Day Live continues at canadadaylive.ca, streaming from coast to coast to coast, and I guess everywhere around the world thanks to the internet. Technology these days is wonderful. Jimmy Rankin joining us on the line from Cape Breton. This stop of our cross-country showcase is brought to you by ShopErnie.com. Everybody loves a cute golden retriever. Ernie and his best friend Basil have the perfect greeting card for your next occasion. See them dressed up in their tuxedos or giving you those sad, adorable puppy eyes. You're sure to get a smile out of Ernie and Basil at ShopErnie.com. Check out the selection now at ShopErnie.com. Jimmy Rankin, you know him from the famed Rankin family, joining us on the line. Happy Canada Day to you.
Happy Canada Day to you.
Well, let's talk about what happens in Nova Scotia and the East Coast for Canada Day, especially with your family, a talented musical bunch. Take me back to the good old days. What were you guys doing to celebrate Canada?
Generally, in the Canada Day, when I was growing up, my family band, the Rankin family, we did local stuff around Cape Breton. We were usually performing on July 1st at some concert, either a dance or a variety concert or something. So that was pretty much standard for us. And always, when I was growing up in my community of Mabo, they had a celebration that weekend, so it would take up the whole weekend, and they had, stuff for kids and adults. And like I said, usually we played for one or two dances over the weekend. So that was usually my Canada Day growing up from the time I was 12 and onward.
There's something very community and rural about East Coast celebrations, and it's very, as you were saying, it's very like family based. It's very welcoming, and it seems like it's just a good time.
Yeah, generally, every little community has some sort of celebration during that time. So, and it is very family driven. Yeah, like I said, when growing up when I was a kid, as far back as I can remember, even before I was playing music, they had Mabo had a picnic, and they would build a stage, and they had fiddle music and games for the kids and food, and it was just a celebration. So I think that was pretty much the case across the East Coast. Everybody embraces it in a big way.
Well, let's stick with the family subject for a second, because, as we mentioned, the Rankin family, legendary music group. How did the whole family get involved in the music biz?
Well, it was just music was always part of my family from as far back as I can remember. Earliest childhood memories. My mom and dad just loved music, and they had us performing very early on, and music was a very big part of that community as well. A lot of Cape Breton fiddle music and song in that neck of the woods, in this neck of the woods. So, my older siblings, I'm from a family of 12, so they had a band early on, and they played for all kinds of local functions. And it was just part of my household. It was just fabric of the family, where it was there, and I didn't really think much about it at the time, but it was just part of it. But gradually, over the years, most of the family members performed at some point, but it whittled down to the 5 members that became the Rankin family. And, we eventually went on to sign record deals and tour all over the place and do that whole thing for 10 years professionally. So it was just there. And it was just sort of a natural progression for us. And when the Rankin family did take form, it was probably the late 80s. We were all at a crossroads in our careers and our lives at the time, and we came together to do a production out of Cape Breton called the Mabo Jig. And it was the 5 siblings with a band and doing music, original songs and traditional music, and it was a theater piece, and we toured that around Cape Breton and Nova Scotia, and then it went from there to making records and touring all over the world.
and then everybody kind of had solo careers, and you sort of, I don't want to say split up because you're still a family, but in terms of the band. But do you guys still play together? I mean, like, what's Christmas like with the Rankin family?
Well, we're older now, so, you know, like a lot of people and families on the East Coast and in that region, people go elsewhere to work. That's just been part of it there. So my family's scattered all over the world, and we really don't congregate at Christmas. Some of us do come here for Christmas. We all have houses here, so we all congregate in the summer mostly. But Christmas growing up was a pretty special time. My mom and dad made a big deal out of it. And I think we all have our own families now, so individually I think we sort of carry on the same tradition. But, you know, I try to get back here at Christmas time because I have a place here, and the family members that are still here, we all get together for dinners and parties and celebrations and just hanging out.
Is the family now handing over that musical tradition to the future generations? Are the kids now kind of still carrying on with music?
Well, probably the one who's really continuing in that path is Molly, John Morris's daughter, and she's doing extremely well with her band always. And, you know, they're touring around the world and to great success, and things are going very well for them. You know, everybody's musical, but it's just something that we didn't really advocate. That you know, I have two kids myself, and they're very musical and artistic, and they play cello and violin and piano and sing. But God knows if they'll continue. Who knows? I would never, force them to do that. But if they get that bug, and you need the love bug of music to pursue it, because it's such a difficult line of work to be in. But if they get it, I'm sure they have the talent. Then I will, support them as much as I can. But I think it's as I said, Molly's sort of the one. Surprisingly enough, she was a Celtic player because her dad was a Celtic musician, and she's gone on to writing songs and playing in a pop band. So I guess that's continuing it, and she's doing really well with her band. So. We're very excited about that.
Well, you've done very well even with the solo career. Backroad Paradise, that was released a few years ago, so it is on iTunes now. People can get that after listening to this show, of course. But are you working on any new music now? What do you have on the go now, let's say, for the rest of the year?
I'm just doing sporadic things this summer into the year, and probably in the fall, I'm just putting together music for a new project, a CD. So probably in the fall I'll start working on something seriously and hopefully have it out in the new year and start touring that. But yeah, that's my plan, and that's where I am right now.
Well, happy 150 to you, Jimmy Rankin. Thanks so much for spending the holiday with us.
Happy 150 to you, and happy Canada Day to everybody out there.
This is Canada Day Live.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Canada Day Live continues. Jeremy Bradley here at the controls. We're stopping now in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and it's brought to you by cheapskatebook.com. It's not about penny pinching, well, nickel pinching. It's about being smart when you spend. Creative ways to save your money and even make some too. In the official guide to being a Winnipeg cheapskate, check out the best-selling book with tips and tricks to be a thrifty Canadian at cheapskatebook.com. John McPhee from Paper Lines joining us on the line. The indie band has been rocking since 2004. Happy Canada Day to you, sir.
You as well.
Thank you so much. We'll talk about your music in a second, but let's talk Canada Day in PEI. What goes on there?
Every year in our capital city of Charlottetown, there's a big celebration, really fantastic fireworks, and sort of a fun day, sort of family-driven events happening in the city that lead into the evening of celebration. Generally great music, as I said, fantastic fireworks, and then usually some Canada Day parties ensue later on.
Now, is it fairly mellow, or does it have that rowdiness like Newfoundland does?
I would say, we're coming in a distant second to Newfoundland in terms of rowdiness. There's generally a party, but maybe a bit more tame.
So what are your plans this year? What are you guys doing?
Well, I have 3 children actually under the age of 5, and they're actually terrified of fireworks, and so we actually might go to a little park that is about half an hour from the capital city, but it's on a bay and it overlooks the capital city, and so we can actually, if we sit there, we'll see the fireworks go off, and then we'll hear the little pop, pop, pop a few seconds later, and that tells me that'll be just enough adventure for this year.
So what is it? It's the sound that they make, or what is it that frightens them?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the fireworks in Charlottetown really are a big, a big show. And I believe they're the biggest maybe east of Ottawa or perhaps Montreal, but, they're quite large. They really put a lot into them. And but when they always do those big volleys towards the end that are really exciting,
right?
But incredibly thunderous. And so it's, either earmuffs for the children or we'll watch from the park 20 minutes away.
And just wait till they get our age. They're going to be already long in bed before it even gets dark in the summer, like some of us, There you go. Let's talk about the band, though. How did you guys get together? I know your brother's in it, too.
That's right. My brother, Rob. And we grew up next door to our guitarist, Colin. And all went to high school with our drummer, Dave, who grew up about 20 minutes down the road. So we all grew up in rural Prince Edward Island, and music was always something that you would dabble in. It was either hockey in the winter or music sort of, basically a lot of the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And so, there'd be a lot of jamming in basements with different friends, and that was kind of how we grew up. So it seemed pretty natural after high school to continue that to a degree. I had done some traveling, had written some songs, brought them home, and showed it to my bandmates, and they were excited about them. So we kind of fleshed them out, and that was maybe 13 or 14 years ago. Now a lot has changed since then, of course, but the same 4 guys, and as we change together. So all is well.
But you turned it in from a hobby into a business, and this was even before, as you say, 13, 14 years ago, social media and YouTube and all of that. So how did it go from a hobby to a business?
There were a number of influential factors that kind of allowed us to make that transition. And to some degree, we're still making that transition. But as far as the finance side, we had existed as a band, knowing that you tour, you make records, and you collect SOCAN, which are songwriting royalties. And that was sort of the business to us. We weren't really aware of anything beyond that until a friend and former manager, Stephen Carroll, who's a member of the Weaker Dance, we worked with for a couple of years, introduced us to a number of other royalties, music-generated royalties, that existed and that might have some money waiting for us. So that sign-up process and collecting those royalties actually, were part of the main thrust behind allowing us to go from part-time to dedicating more full-time hours and that type of commitment to music, and then, ultimately to developing the business. We started a record label behind that to release the records. So that's sort of the transition from hobby to business.
Let's talk about the family side of things, because sometimes I can barely get through dinner with my siblings. You are in business with yours. And, I mean, that could go one of 2 ways, right? You've grown up together, so you know how each other communicates, or it could be headbutting. What is it typically like for you guys?
Early on, we would fight and argue and that type of thing, but that kind of all stopped maybe 2 or 3 years into the band, and now with my brother, it really feels like you have an ally, you have someone who's loyal, you have someone who is going to walk with you through this in good times and bad. And I mean, I should say the other 2 bandmates, there's a similarity there. While we're not blood brothers, we, of course, have a connection that goes quite deep, just given the amount of time and experiences that we've shared together. So it really is quite a powerful bond.
And some of the experiences include some high-profile performances, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some pretty interesting performances, experiences. We traveled to Shanghai, China for a couple of weeks to perform at the World Expo representing Canada, which was just an amazing experience. Another time we actually were invited to perform for Canadian troops in Alberta, Nunavut, which is let's see if I can get this right, the northernmost settlement on planet Earth. I'm fairly sure that's the case. And so, we flew up in the military plane and had our survival suits on and touched down into 24-hour darkness. And then spent a week up there playing songs and telling stories. It's a lot of fun. I would go as far as to say is we have traveled and toured more of British Columbia than most people who live in British Columbia. We actually showcased for something called Art Starts, which some listeners from BC might remember. I'm not sure if it's going now, but at the time, this was maybe 8 or 9 years ago, you would go and showcase, and if they liked you, they would invite you to take your show into British Columbia schools. So we were accepted into this and ended up performing at maybe somewhere between 100 and 150 schools all across BC. And that was about a 6-month commitment, but it's an amazing experience. British Columbia is an incredible province. It's so diverse geographically, and from the mountains and the lakes to the desert region and the vineyards, and it's really wonderful. We had an incredible time. Got a little sort of testy towards the end in that you're playing at 8 a.m. and not 10 p.m. So that got a little old after a while. But the experience actually of seeing the province, we would not take back, because where else can you get that kind of opportunity?
Well, and so we've got to wrap this up. But the latest album, Full Color, right?
That's right.
And where can people get it?
Best place, definitely check it out on iTunes. You can go to paperlions.com, order a physical, or go to your local record store.
Well, John McPhee from Paper Lions, happy Canada Day to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Happy Canada Day to you as well.
And thanks to all of our new friends who are following us on Twitter. My handle is Jeremy D. Bradley, Jeremy, the letter D, and then Bradley. And we're also on Twitter at Canada Day Live. So thanks for showing the love today, and happy Canada Day. It's a big Canada 150 Day, I gotta say. Would love to know where you're tuned in from. Feel free to give me a shout. Send an email to live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. And if you've got a question for any of our celebrity friends, let me just recap. I'm going to name drop here for a little bit. Who else is coming up on the show today? Well, after this next break, Roch Voisine, Barenaked Ladies, Doc Walker, Susan Aglukark, Welders' Daughter, Codie Prevost, Terri Clark, Dean Brody, and Jona Barr. I almost want to say those names just a lot slower so that we can savor it and just take in the moment. What incredible music talent we've got on our show today. And this is just a drop in the bucket. You know we've got great music in this country, and so we certainly couldn't cram everybody who's noteworthy and worthwhile into a 150-minute broadcast, but we're doing our damnedest. Every province and territory is represented today on Canada Day Live, and we're going to continue right after this.
Trans fat-free, gluten-free, and only 10 calories per serving. It's the Scribble Podcast with Jeremy Bradley. Every week, JB serves up a dash of humor with a side of sarcasm at thescribbleshow.com. From current events to scandalous entertainment stories, The Scribble is 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. With cheapskate tips and celebrity guests, JB keeps you informed about what's not important in the world. The Scribble Podcast at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
He's as cheesy as your poutine, but not as fulfilling. Nope, not even close. Once again, here's Jeremy Bradley on Canada Day Live.
Happy Canada Day, everybody. Canada 150. Our next stop is to New Brunswick, and it's brought to you by PutDownYourDamnPhone.com. Enjoy the sun and fun of the holidays, ditch the cell phone, live in the moment, and experience what's in front of you. If you know someone who's addicted to their cell phone, get them the book Put Down Your Damn Phone already at PutDownYourDamnPhone.com. Roch Voisine is a veteran in the Canadian music industry. I can say that. That's a good thing. And he's representing, I guess...
I think it's the first time I've ever been called a veteran. But, 30 years is, it's getting there.
Hey, let's be honest, though. In the music industry, that's an eternity.
Nowadays, yeah. Probably more and more down the road, yeah. This business is transforming a lot, and I'm not sure the long term fits in what's coming, but not the way people are consuming music. But it's hey, been there for 30. Hopefully for another 30, if at all possible.
What I think is incredible is that you haven't aged a bit.
Oh yes. Yeah, mostly from the inside.
Okay.
My knees are not what they used to be. My back. You don't see it, but I feel it.
Okay, all right. Well, it doesn't show. But, a lot of people, I guess, maybe don't realize that you're originally from New Brunswick, or Edmundston, right?
Yes.
And then you made the jump to Quebec, or at least to the Montreal area. Why did that happen? Why did you move? It was a family move, right?
Yeah, it was a family move, but the first move was just about, I would say, maybe 30 kilometers away, just within the Quebec border. My dad was an English teacher, and so he started to work in Quebec, just a few kilometers from the New Brunswick border, and that's where I played most of my hockey, grade school, high school, and then I moved to the Quebec City area for hockey. I was playing hockey in around Quebec City for 4 or 5 years, and then I went to Ottawa U, so I moved to Ottawa U for 4 years, and then music years started in 86, 87, so I made the big move to took a sabbatical, from school, and that was like 30 years ago.
And, what have you been up to since?
Did you say 8 minutes?
Yeah, that's true.
I should have prepared a point for him, one of those things. Man, it's a lot of things in 30 years, a lot of things. But, I've had, great memories. I mean, both personal and with my work, Canada Day, I've hosted the Canada Day celebrations at night on Parliament Hill at noon. I've been up there just like, I was a student there, so my first big parties, big Canada Day parties were way back then. My God, I don't even remember. It's been so long, but it's I've had I had a chance to perform and also just be one of the people walking around watching the fireworks and enjoying the day. So.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, one of your first, or maybe it was your first public performance was Canada Day, right? Was it Montreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, yes. In 1986, my very first public performance at La Ronde in Montreal. There was over like 50,000 people there. Honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into. I was still out of U back then, and they just wanted to try me and see how I would perform on high stress, I guess. I don't know, but it was quite an event for me anyway, game changer. It's a do or die, I guess, situation. Then I knew I was fit for that kind of stuff, and that maybe it was a possibility that I could do that for a living, So it was quite an experience, I must say.
Well, look on the bright side. At least there wasn't YouTube and social media back then. So if you screwed up, we'd all be still laughing about it.
Yeah, nobody remembered.
Right. No.
Did he do okay? Yeah, legend says he did. Okay, that's good. That's good. There's no, they can't go back and watch.
No.
Which is a good thing.
No.
Mind you, it was on TV. So,
Right. That's
so
true.
I'm sure you can find it somewhere. If you're a good hacker, you can probably find that.
So you've lived, so many different places in the country. I'm going to put you on the spot. Where is your favorite place to live in Canada?
Well, my favorite place in Canada is the West Coast, is BC. And I never lived there. I hope one day, because I love the sea and I love the mountains. I'm an avid skier, and I've been skiing forever in Europe, and since going to Europe to work, it was easier to go ski out there than do the same kind of travel the other way. But the few times I've been to BC, I think BC is just a stunning place. There's great spots everywhere in Canada. I've had the chance to go around on tour, and I haven't been to Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut yet, but I've done pretty much, and the prairies are quite stunning. Also, they call it, a big sky country, and you can't really figure it out until you get there, and then you step out of the car, or you look at this and you go, wow. Of course, home is home. New Brunswick, the people, Quebec, very distinct, very, very Latin way of living. It's hard, I've been, I'm going to les Îles de la Madeleine this summer with my kids. First time ever. Beautiful, beautiful place. Been to PEI, been everywhere in Canada. So we have a beautiful country.
And there's so many different atmospheres, right? Like you were just saying, the BC coast, and then Prince Edward Island, completely different. We were just broadcasting from Yukon in February, and such a community feel there. So it's different every city that you go to, really.
It is. Mind you, it can be different in just Quebec itself. The
Right.
province of Quebec is so big compared to, let's say, some European countries. Every province here, is huge, and there are some differences even between towns. Quebec, Montreal, different. Different. Just within Quebec. So the way people think, the way people, the music they listen to, the food they eat, is quite different. There's little subtleties sometimes. You find French Canadians everywhere, which is kind of cool. There's French people everywhere in Canada, little islands here and there, it's just there's one problem. It's just too big.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because it's big, but it's a big country, and you have to. I try to explain it to Europeans. If you want the scenery to change, you have to travel for hours and hours and hours. Well, France is, maybe 10% of the province of Quebec, and they have within just this little area, they have mountains, they have the ocean, they have palm trees, they have, and it's all sort of bunched together. In Canada, you have to travel a lot if you want to change the scenery, and they can't really understand that until they get here. And they call me. I remember friends calling me and say, "Okay, we got 3 weeks. Where should we go in Canada?" Well, let's try 3 months.
Yeah.
There's this notion of big open space that we're so lucky that we live in, and the culture, and they since I spend so much time there, and I see the difference, they can't quite comprehend that.
So you've got a bunch of tour dates coming up, I know, through the rest of the year, and people can go to your website for the latest news, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We just released a new record, new French record here and in Europe. So we'll be been doing promo 10 days over there, 10 days over here, and back and forth for a little while. And we're going to be on tour starting next November here, and then in Europe, and then back and forth. Yes. And
where can people get it?
Oh, you can get it probably, especially across Canada. I would, iTunes, definitely. It would be probably the quickest and safest way and more honest way to get it.
Good point. Good point. Well, we'll be sure to do that. And you know what? Again, I want to wish you a happy Canada Day, Roch Voisine. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. You too, and to everybody that's hard listening right now. We have a great country. We live in a great place. You have to travel around the world to realize how great our place is. Let's keep it great.
All right. Thanks, Roch.
Thank you.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
I have fond memories of our travels to Montreal and Quebec. As I mentioned here on Canada Day Live, we are not only celebrating the Canadian music, but the different locations and places. As you've already heard from Alan and Natalie and Roch, that there are some incredible places in this country. And with our syndicated radio shows, I've had the opportunity to visit many places all over. And we've done two sets of shows from Montreal and one from Quebec City for Christmas. And in Montreal and the surrounding area, I did such incredible adrenaline adventures that they stick out in my mind. We went tree climbing outside the city. So it was early spring. We were doing our spring break programming. And here I am climbing a tree. I'm like 40-some feet in the air. And you got a harness. But at that point, when you're that high up, it actually doesn't really feel like the harness is going to do anything for you. But walking tight ropes and climbing nets. And then we finally zip-lined back down to the ground. So it was just incredible adrenaline adventures, and it was also the first time that I did some indoor skydiving as well. I don't have the balls to actually jump out of an airplane, out in the sky, so this is the next best thing. And apparently they say it's definitely true to life in terms of the experience and the feeling of it. And so I did some indoor skydiving. I went rock wall climbing as well. Here's the interesting thing about it, though, is that the higher up you go, the more frightening it is for some people. So I was told by the instructor, what we're going to do is we're going to blindfold you, and I want you to climb up the wall and see if it's any easier. And I'm sitting there going, bull crap, no way, going to be too hard. And so she said to me, just go on the wall and you just have to reach, because now you're not relying on, your brain isn't sitting there thinking, I'm looking down, it's scary, there's so big of a gap between the floor and me, and now I'm almost at the ceiling, and like your brain is saying all these different things to you when you see everything. So if you are just blindfolded and you're going to do this, it's much easier. And sure as shoot, it was. And again, it's sort of terrifying at first, because you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going up this wall and I can't see, but she said you just feel your way. And you go a little bit slower, obviously, because you can't see exactly where you are, but It was really cool. And again, we've got these pictures, all the highlights from our travels at CanadaDayLive.ca. The direct link for that is Montreal.jbonair.com. Montreal.jbonair.com. I also took in an Impact soccer game, the local team there, and they welcomed me, and it was great because, one, I'm not a huge sports fan. I'm an entertainment reporter by trade, and also, I guess, out of hobby for the most part. I'm always talking with celebrities, as you hear on the show today. And so I thought, why not? You know what? Let's go check out a game. I've never been to a professional soccer game before, so let's do it. And so we go, and I, of course, have a press badge, so it gets me, anywhere in the arena that I wanted to go. And I thought, well, I'm going to get really close to the action. And so whenever there's a goal, when somebody scores, naturally the crowd goes wild and crazy. But here at the stadium, or the arena that we were at, it got a little bit rowdy, and they throw rolls of toilet paper, kind of like as a streamer in a sense. And then there were some lit flares. Don't worry, security and police were ready for them to a point. So I have my camera, and we're going back several years now, so it wasn't like it was the quality of, let's say, a cell phone. It was just a regular digital camera. And I'm recording the celebration of the goal, and I see a lit flare kind of fly, and they quickly throw it into a pail that either has sand or water, I would presume, to sort of put out the flame. But in this instance, the flame didn't go out and erupted in the pail. And then you see a couple more we've got this on video. You can see one security guard actually kind of bolts in the other direction. And I thought, well, that's great. He wasn't really protecting the reporters on the sidelines. But no, he was going to get help, or he was doing something. And then you see another guy go and grab the pail and start stomping on it. But for a brief moment, I felt I could be set on fire at a soccer game in Montreal. But it really was a good time. No, it wasn't a safety thing. Everybody was fine. We were all good. But it was certainly an experience there. And one other thing was when we were there for Christmas. We did our Christmas programs from Montreal. Was this spa on a boat. You really have to check it out. Called Boda Boda. It's at montreal.jbonair.com. Have a listen or have a look at that. And then when we were there at Christmas, I also got a chance to sing with the crooners at the casino. We've got that video on our website. So CanadaDayLive.ca.
Still to come on Canada Day Live, Doc Walker, Susan Aglukark, Codie Prevost, Welders' daughter, Terri Clark, Dean Brody, and Jona Barr. This is Canada Day Live at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on Canada Day Live. Thanks for spending your holiday with us, and happy Canada Day to you. And as we're recapping all of my favorite memories from my travels across the country for our radio shows, we stopped in Quebec for Christmas, and I checked out the German Christmas market. Actually, one of our entire broadcasts was live there. And it was kind of like a farmer's market, but a regular kind of outdoor market. And it was so incredible to see the different diverse cultures that we have in this country. Because I would not expect in Quebec, where there's a lot of French, to have a German Christmas market. But even the entire city with the cobblestone streets and just the architecture and the landscape as well, it was really great. Something that we did was the 12 days of poutine. It was incredible. You know that poutine is our Canadian thing, right? So we did 12 days of poutine, and that meant a new restaurant every day for 12 days, right? 12 days of Christmas, 12 days of poutine. I gotta tell you, it is some heavy food. I can maybe on a regular week have poutine once. Try it 12 times over the course of 4 days, because we weren't there for 12 days. We were only there for, I think it was about 4 or 5. And I had so much poutine. And they say that it's actually good if you have a lot to drink because it'll absorb, right? And I felt that it just made me feel heavier and fatter, but I still wanted to eat it because it's poutine and it's good. There was one restaurant that had over 100 different kinds of poutine. Remarkable. Incredible. So we had ones with meatballs and chicken and just everything you can imagine. Those highlights again are at CanadaDayLive.ca, and click on the Around Canada link and you can take a look at all of the fun that we've had from around the country.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Canada Day Live continues. It's Jeremy Bradley here with Ed Robertson from the Barenaked Ladies. This stop in Ontario is brought to you by EntertainmentWrapUp.com. The latest celebrity news and gossip every day is at EntertainmentWrapUp.com. The highs and the lows from around the celebrity world, it's mostly the lows, is at EntertainmentWrapUp.com. Ed Robertson from the Barenaked Ladies, thanks for joining us today. Happy Canada Day.
And happy Canada Day to you, the 150th.
And let's be honest, 150 has never looked better for us.
It's true. We don't look a day over 135, if you ask me.
What's the best thing about being Canadian? You guys travel all over the world. You just toured through the U.S., but it's always good to be home. What is it that you love most about Canada?
You know, I would say generally, the thing that I appreciate most about being Canadian is our reputation internationally. You know, no matter where you go, when people find out you're Canadian, they're immediately warm towards you. And that is a wonderful thing as a touring musician, is clarifying to people, oh no, I'm not American, I'm Canadian.
It is we get a bit of a power trip when we say that, don't we though? Like, it's kind of...
You know, I would say I've traveled extensively in the U.S. Most of my work has been there in the last 25 years. We're more similar than we are different. I often remind people, twice the population of Canada voted for Hillary Clinton in the last election. So there's a lot of good people down there.
When you look at the kind of music, though, that's come from our country, and, legends, Bryan Adams, Guess Who, Celine Dion, some pretty really big names have made it internationally. So we've got a really great reputation, at least for the music industry anyway, don't we?
Well, absolutely. Neil Young, Joni Mitchell,
Sarah
McLachlan, Katie Lang, the list goes on and on and on and on. I think there's something about the vastness of our country, the bleakness of our winters, the distance between our cities that kind of forges a real strength in the music, in the writing, in the perspective. I think perspective is another thing. I think the fact that we live atop this world superpower that is the United States, and we get to kind of see how they do everything and then kind of wryly interject our own observations on top of it. I think it's put us in a unique position as observational kind of satirists, comedians, writers. There's an awful lot of great comedy and music, I think, that has come out of being next door neighbors to America.
You've traveled, as you say, internationally. Do you find that audiences respond differently in different countries than they would to your songs in Canada?
I think audiences are very different. But I don't notice it kind of song by song. I just notice that Scotland has the rowdiest, most amazing live audience you will ever get the opportunity to perform in front of. If they love you, they will love you and support you forever. If they hate you, they will never, ever let you stop hearing about it. And we've been really fortunate to be embraced by the Scottish crowds, and we have amazing shows there. Japan has this reputation as a very quiet, polite audience. That was not our experience at all. We had an amazing, raucous group of shows over there. Fans were amazing. As I said, we do most of our work in the U.S., and we have had nothing but amazing shows there. But we're looking forward to the largest Canadian tour that we've done in about 20 years coming up here in the fall. We're going everywhere again, and I can't wait.
We'll talk about that tour in a second, but again, we've mentioned the U.S. a few times. I think it's incredible what we've seen even recently with the Billboard Music Awards in May. Canada was dominating a bunch of the categories where you have, Drake with a new record and Bieber and The Weeknd and all these artists. I mean, Canada's really penetrating the music scene, especially in the United States. It wasn't like that, though, necessarily back in the day when you guys were starting out, was it?
Not at all. I've often described to people that when we were huge in Canada in the early 90s, nobody in America cared. The American label viewed Canada like Portugal, as far as they were concerned. It was just another country that did not apply in any way, shape, or form to the industry down there. And I think now there's a realization that, more and more there are real superstars and superpower artists coming out of Canada. And I think certainly the arts community and the industry has a lot more kind of cred now, and it's seen as a very similar, though much smaller, kind of proving ground to America. I think I think people realize now that if it works and is huge here, that it has the possibility of being huge elsewhere. I think there was a misconception for many years that CanCon regulations just meant that anything at all got played on the radio. So, it meant that everyone that put out a record was a huge success. And I think people are realizing that's not the case.
You mentioned the Canadian tour coming up this fall, but I've got to put you on the spot. One place in Canada you could go. We give you a plane ticket. We say, pick one place to go in Canada. Where do you go?
same answer every single time. I go to St. John's, Newfoundland. It's not just one of my favorite places in the country. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. Everybody that says to me, I really want to come to Canada, I always say, yeah, come to Toronto, have a great time, everything is there, but if you want a really unique Canadian cultural experience, go to St. John's, Newfoundland, the home of the friendliest people on the planet, the most beautiful scenery, incredible restaurants, incredible music. I just love it.
You know, at the start of the show, we had Alan Doyle, formerly of Great Big Sea, on, and he told us about the area as a local. But as a visitor, tell people, what can they expect when they go there? What should they do?
Well, first of all, that Alan Doyle guy is a prick. And that probably came across in the interview. He's just impossible. What a temper on that guy, too.
Yeah, rager, yeah.
You do not want to rile Alan Doyle. You'll end up with not one but two black eyes. Alan is a dear friend, and I love him. And honestly, that may be part of the reason why I love St. John's so much is I've rarely seen it as a tourist. I've gone and experienced it more as a local, as a guest of Alan's, and he takes me to all his favorite haunts, and his brother-in-law Todd has Mallard Cottage there in Kitty Bitty Harbor, and so I think my experience has been more akin to that of a local. Obviously, I come from away. I'm a mainlander visiting that island,
right.
But I'm always just blown away by the rugged beauty of the place and the resilience of the people. You're talking about a place that can get 8 feet of snow in a weekend. A place that is often shut off from the rest of the country because it's fogged or snowed in for a week at a time. It's a place that has learned to be self-sufficient and learned to be welcoming to outsiders and supportive of neighbors and community members. It's just a great feeling every time you go there.
Well, there really is the Canadian way, but more so, as you're saying, in the East. So, finally, finish this sentence for me. I am proudest to be Canadian when?
I'm proudest to be Canadian when I'm outside of Canada and I see the smile of recognition on a stranger's face.
That sums it up perfectly. So, where can people get more information about your upcoming Canadian tour?
They can go to barenakedladies.com or, any of our various social media sites. We're Barenaked Ladies on Facebook, at Barenaked Ladies on Twitter and Instagram, coast to coast, and everywhere in between for the first time in a long time, and looking forward to it.
Well, we look forward to it as well. Ed Robertson, happy Canada Day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Happy Canada Day, everybody.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Oh, Canada, what a party! And what's a party without music? Well, we've got music stars. We're halfway through our 150-minute celebration for Canada 150. This is Canada Day Live with Jeremy Bradley. Here again, Jeremy Bradley.
Happy Canada Day, everybody. Jeremy Bradley here on Canada Day Live. Just hearing that we're halfway, I'm looking 150 minutes. We're a little bit past the halfway mark, but I think we're going to run later than an awards show. But here's the deal. We're celebrating our great country. It's going to take as long as it's going to take. And I thank you for tuning in. Again, we're also on Twitter today at Canada Day Live, and then my own Twitter is at Jeremy D. Bradley. So at Canada Day Live and at Jeremy D. Bradley. If you've got a question for any of our celebrity friends that are coming up on the show, Doc Walker, Susan Aglukark, Welder's daughter, Codie Prevost, Terri Clark, Dean Brody or Jona Barr, you can send us an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And a shout out to Sharon, who's tuning in from Drumheller. Happy Canada Day, Sharon. Canada Day Live continues at canadadaylive.ca, and we're coming at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, my hometown, and this segment is brought to you by the official guide to being a Winnipeg cheapskate. That's a coincidence, isn't it? And it's my best-selling book, Double Coincidence. You can check out the title at cheapskatebook.com and on Amazon and iTunes and in the business section of the Winnipeg Free Press, winnipegfreepress.com/business/cheapskate. Doc Walker, a great Manitoba group, is touring all over the province. Chris Thorstensen is on the line right now. Happy 150 to you.
Oh, thanks. It's a beautiful day for Canada. I mean, I've been proud to be Canadian my whole life, but this whole 150th just seems to get you a little bit more, for sure.
It's funny because I remember back in the day, I was in elementary school and we were celebrating 125. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And we had, it was the logo was kind of like blue and purple, like it was kind of really cool. And to think now, 25 years later, here we are again.
I know. You know, it's been where I'm actually was doing something at the graduation last week for PCI in Manitoba, and it's been like 24 years since I graduated. So it's, in around that time, it was the 125th. So, man, it seems time flies. It's just way too fast.
So I need you to chime in here. Friendly Manitoba, true or false?
True, absolutely.
So let's talk about some things that Manitoba is known for. I know you were saying just before we went on the air, mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah. It just seemed like they came out with a vengeance in the last week. I don't know. Usually you get a good break in spring. You know, the weather's nice and there's no mosquitoes, but you know it's coming.
Right. And, of course, not many people know this, or it was at one point the Slurpee capital of the world, if I'm not mistaken, several years in a row.
Portage-La Prairie held the record, I believe. The West End 7-Eleven, I think it was. I remember we were pretty proud of that when we were in high school, that Portage-La Prairie held the Slurpee capital of Canada. So, that's one thing that we're known for in Portage.
It's the world. Like, people, we're being serious here. There is actually that they've crowned it the Slurpee capital of the world. But in Manitoba, and Chris, you're going to back me up on this, people, dead of winter, have a Slurpee. It is...
Oh, yeah. You pull up 7-Eleven to get something, and there's like, a guy walking out with his family and a bunch of Slurpees, and it's like minus 25. So it's crazy. We love them. I guess it's just part of the Manitoba culture, Slurpees.
And we also know that, there's that first hint of warmness in the spring. It could be still -5. We're out in shorts. We are.
Oh, yeah. It's like, a switch goes off for me at home. It's about, beginning of May sometime, maybe late April. I get the board shorts onto the shorts, and the pants come on when I go play, and that's about it. Other than that, it's usually about... getting into part of November that I finally put them away.
Yes. Well, the rule when we were growing up was my mom said that it had to be at least +20 before we could put on shorts. Once you hit a teenager and you're dressing yourself and you're buying your own clothes, whatever it is, oh yeah, that rule was off.
Yeah, it's like, if it's anywhere close to zero, man, the shorts are coming out.
But another summer tradition, I know you guys were just at Dauphin Country Fest. That is a huge annual party up in Dauphin.
Oh, yeah, it's... Dauphin's always been pretty crazy. I remember my sister talking about it. She's a couple of years older than I am, when I was young, and her talking about it at Dauphin Country Fest. And then, years later we got to play at the Hilltop Bar. And, man, it's nuts. It's just like 12,000. It's not a huge festival, but they really know how to have a good time, and lots of real big acts, and this year was just a blast.
It's not huge in terms of attendance, but it's huge in the names they're getting. I mean, some really big names.
Yeah. I mean, Luke Bryan this year, and Doc Walker, of course.
Well, yes, naturally.
No, it's a great festival, and it's the way it's set up in Dauphin. I think that's where they have the Ukrainian festival, and it's sort of a natural amphitheater. It's really beautiful.
Well, the scenery. I mean, the landscape across the province, but especially Dauphin in central Manitoba anyway. I mean, if you love the outdoors, and that's hiking and kayaking, canoeing and cycling, I mean, the rivers and lakes, there's some really great scenery in Manitoba as well.
Yeah, and there seems to be a line pretty much right about where I'm from in Westburn, just north of Portage Prairie. Just sort of, I guess, on the north part of Number 1 Highway, it goes to pretty much fields and, lots of agriculture and oak trees and and then all of a sudden there's like we call it the poplar line, where you get sort of the northern country and it's a lot of poplar trees and it's sort of the north. So it's I love Manitoba. I live right beside the White Mud River, and we're not far from Lake Manitoba. So for a kid growing up, I mean, it was no better place for me to grow up when you love hunting and fishing.
There's so many people that want to go east or west. So if you had to, if we're forcing you out of Manitoba, are you going Toronto or Vancouver?
Well, I know if I go all the way to Vancouver, I'm not a big mountains fan. I mean, growing up in the prairies, they kind of freak me out. I love to visit them, but I love to leave. I like Alberta and Saskatchewan. I'm a prairie guy, so if I had to go somewhere, definitely it'd be west for sure.
Well, let's not forget the music, because there's some pretty big music talent in the province. Neil Young.
Lost you there.
Oh, there we are. Gotcha now?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, good. So, well, this is live radio, everybody. Don't we love it? But, but music royalty, and I don't mean royalties, but I'm talking about legends in the music business. Neil Young, Guess Who. Yeah. Manitoba is really on the map in terms of music, and of course Doc Walker. Can't forget Doc Walker, right?
Well, we did this. We called it a Manitoba medley that we put together, and that's when you really start. Realizing the caliber of talent that came out of and comes out of Manitoba. Between, I think we had some of the Guess Who, and then we had BTO and Neil Young, and actually Murray Pulver, our guitar player, played with the Crash Test Dummies for about 5 years. So we've had some Crash Test Dummies in there. But yeah, it's just sort of Manitoba, and I think the prairies in general have a unique sound, just like any other region. But I guess somebody had mentioned it, from back in the 60s when there wasn't the internet and whatnot. In Manitoba, we didn't really go with, a New York sound or LA sound that was from Vancouver or Toronto. We were kind of stuck out in the middle by ourselves, and I think that's where that prairie rock and roll sound really kind of came to be.
And who were you listening to when you were growing up? Let's talk about some of your favorite Canadian songs.
Loverboy for sure.
Oh, yes.
Big Loverboy fan. Katie Lang, a huge fan. We got to do a couple of different things with Katie Lang, and I got to sit side stage and watch her sing Hallelujah, and also at the Olympics in Vancouver, we got to see her there, and just such an amazing talent. We're pretty lucky to have somebody like that coming from our country.
What I love is that so many people outside of this country don't realize how many of their favorite artists, or even maybe how many of their favorite songs, are Canadian. And that's really cool, too.
Yeah, it is. You take per capita, I mean, there's a lot of, if you really think about it, there's a lot of big artists. But when you think of Bryan Adams, Katie Lang, Shania Twain, Alanis Morissette, and that's just touching on the big ones. Justin Bieber. The list goes on, and I think for a country with the population that we have, it goes to show that there's a lot of music, and I think it's I think a lot of it does come from the government of Manitoba government of Canada with Factor, and also with Manitoba Film and Sound. They get behind the music, and they help develop artists and allow funding for touring and whatnot, and I think that's really helped over the years.
Well, you're going on tour. I know you've got a big show tonight in Brandon, and I got to ask, how do you prepare for Canada 150 as opposed to a regular concert gig? Are you doing anything different? This is a huge celebration today.
It is. I don't think we're going to change anything. I think it's just the atmosphere in itself is different on a day like today. It's almost one of those days where, and cross my fingers that you can't do anything wrong. Everybody's happy. It's an amazing time for Canada, and we're just really, we're really proud to be a part of this and to be able to perform on today, a day like today. And I think we're gonna have fun like we always do, and I think it's just the crowd's gonna take care of itself, and it's gonna be an awesome day.
Well, they're telling me that we've got to go, but we're live, so we're gonna keep going. You've got tour dates across the country coming up, right?
Yeah, we're actually getting in the bus tonight, and we're heading way up north, so we're going to see a lot of Manitoba. Well, it'll be at night, so we're actually heading up past Thompson, and Thompson, Manitoba. Where is it? Where are we going? Nelson House, I believe. So we've got a long drive ahead of us, and we've got a lot of shows coming up this summer across Canada, and just happy to play, but really excited to be here today on this pretty special day.
It is. And one more, we've got to do a quick shout out for Weather Vane. Give us a few seconds of a plug for that.
Oh, Weather Vane. Well, it's if you like Manitoba and you like the prairies and that heartland sound, this record is definitely for you. I mean, it's sort of autobiographical in a way with us being from the prairies and being so proud to be from the heartland. It's just a lot of interesting songs in there and a lot of honesty. So, if you feel like listening to something like that, make sure you pick it up.
Well, of course we do. And I want to say Happy Canada Day to you, Chris. Give our regards to Dave and the rest of the gang. And the website, docwalker.ca, right?
Yeah, for sure. Check it out. Listen to some music. And if you can make it out to a show, we'd love to see you. Doc
Walker and Brandon tonight. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Canada Day Live continues from Winnipeg, Manitoba, almost the very center of North America. I don't know if you realize this, but geographically, it's just, I believe, east of Winnipeg that it's the geographical center of North America. It's fascinating because people don't realize that we see how big the States is the way it goes south, but northern Canada is huge. And so Manitoba, the very center of the country, despite people thinking that Toronto is the center of Canada. But I was born and raised in Winnipeg. I do spend a lot of time outside of the city in Los Angeles for our syndicated radio shows covering red carpets and different Hollywood events. But a couple of years ago, we brought a contest winner to Winnipeg to experience the city. I've been talking all show about how with our broadcasts on the radio, we do travel programming for spring break, summer vacation, and Christmas. And for many years, we've been doing this, but people were saying, why don't you ever showcase your own city, your own hometown of Winnipeg? And I just never thought of it, because I guess if you're from a place, you don't think it's anything special. And then maybe if you move away or if you don't spend much time there for a few years at a stretch or whatever, it has a little bit more meaning for you. And I just thought, I'll be honest, I was kind of ignorant. I just thought, well, Winnipeg isn't anything special, but it's because I was born here. I was raised here. It wasn't anything new and exciting to me. Just like when I go to Nova Scotia, Montreal, Quebec, people that live there might not think it's anything fascinating, but as an outsider, you do find it incredible. So we had a contest where we were going to bring somebody to Winnipeg, and our audience is Canadian and American. So it was in May. And we said if the contest winner is Canadian, we'll bring them over for Victoria Day, right? May long weekend. If the winner was American, we would have them over for Memorial Day, which is the week after. So we were kind of going on one of two weekends. And it was very easy for us to arrange activities because I'm known in the city. I had a column in the Winnipeg Free Press for my best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being a Winnipeg Cheapskate. I believe you've heard a bit about it today. And so I know the city like the back of my hand. And so it was really easy for us to produce a show and really show off Winnipeg. So we had a contest winner from Nanaimo, British Columbia. And BC weather can be rainy sometimes on the coast, especially on Vancouver Island. And through some emails back and forth, he was asking, what should I where? Is it warm weather? Is it rainy? What's the season like? And if you've been in Manitoba or in Winnipeg in May, it's a toss-up. It could go either way. It could be beautifully sunny and hot, or it could be snowing. Who knows? Just like in February. February, you can have plus 15 degrees, or you could have minus 30. You never know. And so we were banking on having nice weather when he was in town. And I felt really bad because I said to him, you're not going to need a park or anything. Don't go and, buy winter clothes. It's May in Winnipeg. We've had a couple days of warm weather. It's going to be fine. Of course it wasn't, though, right? That's just my luck. That's the way things go, especially when you've got somebody who's not accustomed to cold prairie weather. It's a dry cold, as we often hear in Manitoba. And he had some appropriate clothing. It's not like he came dressed for, Hawaii or the beaches in Australia. But certainly he wasn't expecting -1 and ice pellets and freezing rain and torrential downpours and windstorms. That is what happened when our contest winner was in Winnipeg. So not the best experience weather-wise, but we did have a great welcome. We got a letter from the mayor, Brian Bowman, who provided a letter in a welcome basket at the hotel that he was staying at. And we had a great dinner at a wonderful steakhouse. And then we also checked out the zoo. Now, the funniest thing about our zoo in Winnipeg, the incredible polar bear enclosure, the habitat that they have there, they just spent, I don't know how much time and money renovating it, but it was worth it, I think. And the polar bears basically swim above you. If you haven't gone to the zoo or heard about it, it's definitely worth checking out. And so that was what we were looking forward to doing at the zoo. When we got there, and again, pissing down rain, it was horrible, horrible weather. Both of us in shorts, by the way. But I'm a Winnipegger, as we know, when it's just +1, we're in shorts. And it was so embarrassing because we were soaking wet. We just got out of we're walking from the car to the front gate, like to go into the admission building. And we're soaking wet. And there were 8 cars in the parking lot when we got there. Presumably, all staff. And eventually you kind of just have to laugh about it. Like, there's no way we were backing out of it. We did an interview there with the PR person, and we had a good time. And basically, free reign of going and checking everything. Free reign, haha. Of checking everything out. And so we had to just sort of laugh as we're running through this pouring rain, and we're soaking wet, and it was incredible. But we did get some good pictures of the polar bear. So you can check that out. It's at peg.jbonair.com. peg.jbonair.com. We link you through on our website, by the way, at canadadaylive.ca, if that's easier for you to remember if you're already on the website listening to the streaming broadcast. canadadaylive.ca, and click on Around Canada, and you can check out the rainy, wet weather in Winnipeg.
Trans fat-free, gluten-free, and only 10 calories per serving. It's the Scribble Podcast with Jeremy Bradley. Every week, JB serves up a dash of humor with a side of sarcasm at thescribbleshow.com. From current events to scandalous entertainment stories, The Scribble is 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. With cheapskate tips and celebrity guests, JB keeps you informed about what's not important in the world. The Scribble Podcast at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
The only guy who tries to leave Canadian Tire money as a tip. Here's your host of Canada Day Live, Cheapskate, Jeremy Bradley.
From Manitoba, we're heading up to Nunavut on Canada Day Live. It's brought to you by Multiple Sarcasm, a new book shining light on the ridiculous and making you laugh when you're sick of constant political drama from, well, you know where. Well, what's it like crashing a backyard karaoke party or traveling with a train wreck colleague who insists on drama at every turn? Stories that achieve the ultimate climax in the book at multiplesarcasm.com and on Amazon and iTunes. Susan Aglukark is joining us now on Canada Day Live. Happy Canada Day to you, Susan.
And to you as well, Jeremy. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us and spending the holiday. So we're both Manitobans, although you live in Ontario now, though, don't you?
I do, yes.
And you've lived in the north, a place I have yet to visit myself, although we have been to Yukon. Northern Canada, home to some really incredible culture and history, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I have to say this. I call myself Manitoban by default, and only because when I was due, the closest hospital was Fort Churchill, Manitoba, and once I was born, we flew back to Nunavut, it was that Northwest Territories.
Right.
Ahliet is where I grew up, which is right on the west coast of the Hudson's Bay. So technically, I'm a true Northerner, born in Fort Churchill, Manitoba.
You know what's crazy is that I was almost born in Kenora, Ontario, when we were out, my parents, I guess, were out, and my mom went into labor, and they were rushing back at Falcon Lake, and so I was almost born in Ontario, so there we go.
So you know the story.
Oh, yes. But when I think of music, though, we've got music all over the country, of course. There's just something more genuine, and it's steeped in history when it's from northern communities. I don't need to tell you that. You know that. It's more from the heart. It's more community and less commercial. It's not really commercial at all for the most part, is it?
No, it isn't, and you're absolutely right. In fact, I'm doing a new album right now, and I was in the studio today, and I'm writing this new album, and really, what I'm really drawn to is the more I've done this career, and it's been 25 years now, the more
ironically, I have fallen in love that much more with my culture, and especially the history, the places that we come from. And the more I research it, we come from the Bering Land Bridge. That's the theory I subscribe to. That's the one I believe. And as I learn more about these incredible ancestors, the songwriting is really storytelling of this incredible part of Canadian history, who Inuit are, who we were, where we came from. The journey alone to get from the Bering Strait across the north and into the regions that we've settled over these last several thousand years, and that's the music I'm writing. Those are the stories I'm telling. So it's not songwriting to songwrite right now. It's songwriting to tell this incredible story, and it's easy to do that when you write about the North.
Well, and that's the thing, is that music, any kind of music, is about storytelling, as you say. So there's a different message, though, when it's a country song about a breakup or it's, whatever. It really is music that comes from the heart, and it comes from within, and it's natural, is what it seems like.
It is, and yeah, absolutely. And I think part of what's exciting about has always been exciting for me when I engaged the songwriter, because there's this whole other process that had to happen for me coming from small town Nunavut and then into this incredible career, is I had to fall in love with what I was quote unquote representing. And when you come from a culture, you kind of take it for granted. Yeah, I've seen whales, I've seen polar bears, I've seen herds, I've seen it all, I've hunted. And then you take a step back and you go, okay, now you're representing something entirely different in your songwriting. You have a responsibility, a different responsibility to write from a different place and different memories, and you go deeper into different things. It's like, oh my God, I love this. And you just really fall in love with that storytelling and sharing those stories from that experience.
There's always the concern that we hear about when it comes to languages or cultural heritage. I'll give the example, my grandparents spoke Polish and Ukrainian. My parents knew it when they were growing up, but they don't speak it anymore, so they've kind of lost the language. I imagine that's happening a lot with the generations in the North as well. It's happening everywhere, it seems.
Yes and no. I'm going to say it varies. It depends on what region you're from. Okay. The Eastern Arctic, for example, Inuit are very, very strong still in their Inuktitut. Having said that, there is something about the younger generation where there's a lot less of a desire to speak the language, but it's still very strong in the communities. In the Western Arctic, there was a struggle to I would say in the previous generation or maybe two generations in the area of the language, but it's been revived. So we haven't lost the language actually in all the different regions of the north, of Inuit regions. Again, it depends on which region you're from, but for the most part, we all speak the language quite well.
And for the music, it is represented at national events, international events now. It's quite mainstream, which I think is great too, that the country has embraced it. And it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. There's a new appreciation in 2017 for the music.
And I agree with you. There's this great organization out of Ottawa called Nunavut Sivulik Sebut. It's an organization that is teaching. It's a pre-prep program for post-secondary, and a lot of young Inuit go through these prep programs for post-secondary, but part of their program seems to be a huge arts element, and they do a lot of public appearances and engage audiences in traditional Inuit dance and singing and even clothing. And there's a lot of that going on all over Canada. And all over the world, we get great young artists doing a lot of throat singing and storytelling now as part of their performances. So it seems to be a love that Canada is a love relationship that Canada is having with Inuit culture that gives us this opportunity to share it worldwide.
So let's now shift over and talk about you, who considers yourself an accidental artist. What does that mean?
Well, when I moved to Ottawa from small town Nunavut, I moved there to work as a translator, and I had never sung aside from being a preacher's kid. I'd never written a piece of music. Frankly, I still don't know how to read or write music. I'd never done any live performing. I went from literally writing an album to headlining with nothing in between. I've never done the bar scene. I've never done any. There was nothing in between. So when I found myself this headline marquee, your name in the lights, and you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? And now you take it seriously. Now you have to learn the craft. Now you have to learn to sing. Because I had fallen in love with it. So, it's kind of a backwards approach, but as I was doing it, I was falling in love with it. So I imagine it as I stumbled along in the early years. So I really see myself as the accidental artist, knowing in my heart of hearts I was an artist, but the process itself was kind of a backwards process. It worked for me, but it was almost like accidentally there I was, and 25 years later, here I still am.
Susan, my accidents get me in trouble. Yours get you awards, the Order of Canada, performing for the Queen. I mean, come on. You've had quite a ride.
I would say the first 10 years, Jeremy, I was like, I don't think I've earned it yet. I don't think I always think of, when I meet amazing artists, I think, give it to him or give it to her, or let me nominate somebody else for this. There was at least the first 10 years, I was like, oh my God, thank you, but really? Okay, thank you. Now I get it. I get the falling in love with the art and how hard we honestly have to hustle. We're really good hustlers. You learn to hustle for the work, and I've fallen in love with it, and now I'm at the point in my life where every award I get, yes, thank you, I've earned this one. So, I'm at that stage in my life. But there were certainly the early years when I was like, okay, thank you. Thank you.
You've performed for the Queen. You've had some really amazing opportunities in your career. Is there one that still makes you think, wow, this is pretty cool?
Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah.
How do you top that one? I mean, yes, the Queen was amazing. All of those opportunities were pretty incredible, and especially for someone coming from where I came from and never, ever dreamed that it could be what it was. But then you find yourself standing in front of Nelson Mandela, introducing yourself to him, and him getting up from his seat and saying, I'm Nelson Mandela. I'm like, yeah, the whole world knows who you are. It was pretty awesome.
Well, take me there. What's going through your head in that moment?
Well, it was a moment of, I had like 10 seconds. We had a bit of a glitch with the track, so I thought, okay, I don't think I'm ever going to have another chance to actually shake his hand. So I ran across the stage and walked over and said, hi, I'm Susan Aglukark. It's such an honor to perform for you. And he slowly got up from his seat and he leaned over and said, I'm Nelson Mandela. And it's like, oh my God. At that point, to still be so respectful and so humble, it just kind of, you leave realizing that's what you have to work towards. That's the leader of the world, and you leave that much more humbled from that experience.
It might have ruined the moment if you would have said to him, I'm sorry, you are...
Yeah, oh my God, no. It absolutely would not have happened that way.
Let's shift gears now, though. It's our 150th birthday, of course, and so many wonderful places in Canada. Where is your... Actually, let me put it like this. Here's a one-way ticket, Susan. Go. Where do you go?
I would go home. I'm a northerner at heart. Every opportunity I get, I love to go home. My heart is on the land. My heart is fishing. My heart is hunting and camping. And really, every chance I get to perform, because they are so open. Our Inuit young people are so open, and when they're like that, you just want to give them everything. So I like to go home, and as much as going home is almost always a holiday, there's always some time set aside to spend some time with young people, to share the story, to share the music and the singing and the inspirations. That's where I always go.
Well, that should be fun. Now, I guess you're going to have all the updates about your performances and speaking engagements and everything on your website and social media, right?
Absolutely. They'll be posted once they're all firmed up on the website and on social media.
And what is the address for everybody?
Well, the Twitter handle is S_Aglukark. The artist page, if they go to my website, susanaglukark.com, they'll see the icon for the Facebook. That's the quickest way to get to my Facebook page, where we update calendars. So those are the two ways to find all the current information.
Well, we will be sure to watch that. So by way of Manitoba and Nunavut, now in Ontario, Did I get that right? I think I did.
You got it right, yeah.
Well, Susan Aglukark, thank you so much for celebrating 150 with us. Happy Canada Day.
And to you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
We continue our salute to Canada. Happy birthday, you beautiful country, you. And we're staying up north here on Canada Day Live. This visit to Northwest Territories is brought to you by ShopErnie.com. Everybody loves a cute golden retriever. Ernie and his best friend Basil have the perfect greeting card for your next occasion. See them dressed in their tuxedos or giving you those adorable sad puppy eyes. You're sure to get a smile out of Ernie and Basil at ShopErnie.com. Check out the selection now at ShopErnie.com. Karen Novak from the music group Welders Daughter joining us on the line from Northwest Territories. Happy Canada Day.
And happy Canada Day to you as well, Jeremy.
Well, thank you so much. The music scene in Yellowknife. I know you guys are originally from Vancouver, from what I understand, but what's the scene like in Northwest Territories? You guys, you're legends there, is what I hear.
Well, thank you. We've got a lot of work here, and that's why we moved from Vancouver up into the territories here, because we've got the opportunity to play way more here than we could anywhere. I guess our story's a little bit backwards. Most people go to the major cities to pursue the music, and we did everything backwards and found success that way.
So when you hear about these artists, as you say, they'll want to go to Toronto, New York, Los Angeles, sometimes even out of Canada altogether. You went Vancouver, you went BC, and then how did you actually start to do shows up north, though? How did that come about?
Well, we were a touring band, touring right across Canada, well, Western Canada mostly, and found ourselves having more and more opportunities to play in the north. They would give us more and more dates, and eventually they just didn't let us go at all. That's why we're still here 14 years later.
What kind of acts do they get up there, though? You're not having the Rihannas, the Justin Biebers, I imagine. Who performs up there?
Well, we did have Jimmy Rankin come up in here. We have small venues. We don't have the capacity to have, like hundreds of thousands. I mean, our entire population for our major city is only 20,000 people. So that's that's our entire population up here in the north here. So we have a very small population, so we don't have the facilities. But we do manage to bring in, we have the Folk on the Rocks Festival, which is a big one here in Yellowknife every summer, and they'll bring in like Blue Rodeo and all sorts of great talent that we never get an opportunity to go see. So a lot of the bigger bands will bring in just one or two members, and we'll just have a more intimate showcase in there. So things like that we really enjoy up here in the north. It's a very music-loving community up here. The northern people love music.
Well, and there's something.
Part of them, I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and there's something about those smaller, intimate venues anyway that just feels like you're more connected with the performer and the performer with the audience. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I've had people say it's how you make them feel. It's like you're a tuning fork with your audience, and it's just the most amazing thing just to be able to connect with them and see them right in their eyes.
So my next natural question then is, do you prefer the rain or the cold?
In the cold, at least there's some sunshine,
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It depends what time of year you're asking me this.
That's right.
When you've had 8 months of winter, you're ready to see just about anything different. But no, I prefer the cold, actually.
Is the area and the region what you expected before you even visited? Because again, like I said, Vancouver, Toronto, these big cities, people might not have an understanding of what happens or what life is like in the north. Is it what you expected, or was it a total radical shift for you?
I think we came up to the north without an expectation. We were just happy to be working.
Right.
As a musician, we were just thrilled that we could be working this much, and we didn't. And like I said, the audiences and the respect for music and the love for music that you have up here is unlike I've seen anywhere else, except maybe perhaps Manitoba and Winnipeg.
Wow.
Big love of music out there as well. But you're treated like royalty when you're music here, and there's a great respect for what you do, which is an amazing feeling when you're a musician.
So what you do is you record original tracks, but you also mix in a whole bunch of songs that everybody knows, country, pop, some oldies, I guess, too, in there, right?
We're we're known as we have a house band position up here. It's in the Gold Range at the Yellowknife. As a house band, we lock in like anywhere from 3 to 10 months at a time, playing 5 nights a week. I have another house gig up in Nunavut, which is way past the almost at the Arctic Ocean there.
Right.
And we'll lock in for another 3 to 5 months up there, playing 6 to 7 nights a week up there. So between the 2 house gigs and throwing in the occasional special event or festival, we're booked full time. And I believe we're Canada's #1 working band as far as dates and how many sets we play every day, every week, every month.
Doing all that, I understand you guys have some either new music coming out or you're going to be touring. Like, what do you have on the go then for the next 6 months, let's say?
We've got actually some interesting things coming up. The fact is, our band started, we're celebrating our 20th year as a band, full-time band this year. So we recorded an original rock album, and that's how we started, touring as an original rock show, hard rock. That was under the name of the Karen Single Band. Now, that one is getting a revitalized listen to, and it's part of a trilogy, which is going to be added to this year. And we're also recording a Welders Daughter album, which is country-based originals. And we're also releasing a single of a version of a dance song that we do called What's Up by Four Non Blondes. So, Concrete Blonde. So, 3 different genres of music. Again, we're that band that does everything backwards, and it works for us.
And do you take requests?
We are known for taking requests.
There you go.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, today I've got a list of people send us little pieces of paper. I've got a stack of about 3 inches deep of paper that we're going through right now. And still, even online, we're asking for requests, and we absolutely take requests.
What's the top song then that you get requested?
It depends on the night.
Okay.
Saturday nights are different than a Tuesday night. Number 1 right now that we're getting requested for is probably Head Over Boots by John Party for a cover song.
Wow.
On top of the What's Up. That one's a constant one for years now.
Wow, that's incredible. So with all this stuff on the go, I know people, I guess, can get the latest information where on your website or social media?
We've got, again, double websites because of double band names.
Right.
Welders Daughter band.com and also the KarenSingleBand.com. And we're also on Facebook.
Well, we'll be sure to check it out. So, Karen Novak, joining us from Yellowknife Northwest Territories. Thank you so much, and congrats on all the success with everything. And again, Happy Canada Day to you.
And Happy Canada Day to you and to all listening. We appreciate the conversation and your time. Thank you, Jeremy.
No problem. Thank you. Still to come on Canada Day Live, you Codie Prevost fans, I know you're waiting. He's coming up after the break. Send your questions for Codie live at jbonair.com. We're back on Canada Day Live right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Determined to make an igloo in the backyard today? Can someone tell him it's July in Canada? At least wait until September for some snow. Your host of Canada Day Live, Jeremy Bradley.
We're leaving northern Canada and heading back down to the prairies. This stop to Saskatchewan on Canada Day Live is brought to you by Entertainment Wrap-Up. The latest celebrity news and gossip is online every day at entertainmentwrapup.com. The highs and lows from the celebrity world, but let's be honest, it's mostly the lows, can be heard at entertainmentwrapup.com. Making a stop on the prairies, heading to Saskatchewan with an honorary Aussie joining us on the line. I don't know about that. Codie Prevost is joining us. Happy Canada Day, Codie.
Hey, same to you, Jeremy. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to get to this Aussie thing in a second, but I'm going to jump right into this. Canada Day in Saskatchewan. Tell us about it. What happens in the big province?
Well, this is celebration. celebration everywhere you look. Like, we're all about having parties here in Saskatchewan, and it's definitely the day of the year where every single place has a party, and that's exactly what's happening this year. We're actually performing down in Welders, Saskatchewan, of all places. It's actually quite close to my hometown, so it's pretty exciting to be able to get back home and get to perform a show that close to my home on Canada Day, to celebrate with everybody that I, started out with, and some of my biggest supporters are from that area, so it's very exciting.
Well, we always see big 4th of July celebrations with our friends down south, and a lot of people say they're more patriotic, but with this 150 thing, it seems like Canadians are ready to go.
I would have to agree with you. Everybody's going all out this year. There's every band that I know, it doesn't matter what caliber, they are out performing somewhere. Every single person has hired a band, and everybody's putting on a show, and it's just a great thing, and it's a great celebration. I'm proud to be Canadian. It's a great place. I've traveled all over, the world, basically, and I always come back to Canada, and it's one of the places I feel the safest, and also I feel the people are the most friendly here, so it makes me proud to be from Canada.
But I mentioned at the top, you're an honorary Aussie, and you spend, it seems like, more time out of Canada than you do. I'm not going to hold that against you, maybe a little bit, but,
Yeah, Jeremy, it's just been in the last few years. I've started working with a couple companies down in Australia, and I've been getting to do some tours there, and it's been, one of the reasons I love Australia so much is because I find when I go there, I feel just like I'm in Canada. It's, except for obviously it's warmer for more months of the year, but besides that fact, the people are just as friendly, and it's just a great place to go, and it really reminded me of home, which is here in Canada. So it's a great place to go, and I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity.
I'm going to put you on the spot here because it's my show. I can do that, right? I want you to tell everybody Happy Canada Day in your best Aussie accent.
Oh, that's a good one, man. I've never practiced it, but Happy Canada Day. That's a bad one, man, but I'm not very good at it.
Maybe we'll come back around to that.
You know what would make it if I said mate?
There you go. Okay.
You know what I mean? That solves all the problems there. So it's you're the first one who did that. So it's good, man.
There was a hush fell over the room, I have to say. But what is that? What is that reception like, though, in other countries, or I guess continents even, for Canadian music? Because, again, Canada, up north, and then you hit it big in Australia. Obviously, Canadian music is resonating with people there. Where else have you seen this happen?
Music these days, I find, especially with the internet coming out in this day and age, music it breaks barriers. Your music can get heard in China, can get heard in all parts of the world, and I just find that music's becoming almost a universal language, which I think it has for years, but with the internet, it just makes it that much easier. And so, you know what I mean, Canadian music is, to me, Canadian music was always some of the most creative music, because we never really had a formula here. Everybody just, they really went with what their heart was telling them, and it just, it really comes out in the creativity in our music, and I think it's really, you know what I mean, breaking barriers, and that's why it's having so much success overseas. What's the craziest response you've had from a crowd in another country? Oh man, Australia's a pretty wild place. Like, so they like to have a good time there for sure. But one thing I couldn't understand is, people like to start up the party fairly early in the day, and so one day after the show, you know what I mean, the show was wild, and it was like a 5 p.m. show. And I asked someone after the show, I said, I noticed that people here are already having a pretty good time. Like, they don't waste any time. He said, well, you know what, we have a curfew here, which is 10 o'clock. So they start at about 10 in the morning just to make sure that they have a good time before they have to go home. What do they know or think they know about Canada? Like, is it the stereotypes that we hear, maple syrup, poutine, like, what do they think or say about Canada? Well, it don't matter where I go. It could be the States, it could be Australia, but everybody just thinks it's the North Pole. Like minus 50 every day. But you know what I mean? We do get those minus 40, minus 50 days, but there's not, you know what I mean? It's not like that full on right through winter. There's, you know, breaks and stuff, but you know, it's just people have this a vision of Canada being like this deep freeze where you go and it's like cold all the time.
And it's funny too because there were a few days in the spring. A lot of my time is spent in Los Angeles as well, and Winnipeg had warmer temperatures than Los Angeles for a couple days in the spring. So
yeah, it's funny. It's funny how the world is changing. I as well had been in LA a little bit, and you know, there was some days there where it didn't feel that warm to me.
No, but you feel a lot of warmth on Twitter with your chats, and you take over Twitter. Tell Canada about that.
So every Tuesday night we do a Twitter party, and it's from 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, and basically we get on there and we chat for an hour, and all you got to do is go to Twitter, and in the search bar, put hashtag Codie Prevost, and that's CODIE PREVOST, and then just log on Tuesday night, and when you type in that hashtag up will pop all the people chatting, and it's every week we get new people, and there's people from all over the world, Indonesia and different countries, and it's growing every week, so we highly encourage everybody to hop on there on Tuesday nights.
And what time is that for Central?
Man, let me think about that. So it'd be like, well, right now it's 7 to 8 Central Time.
Okay. That's an inside joke between Codie and me, just in case anybody's wondering what I'm referencing. But
no, we've had some tricky times with the time changes.
Yes. They tell you some very, very weird things. Let's be honest here. You're told some pretty personal stuff in public.
Well, you know, I think as you progress and as you perform more and, you know, build up the fan base, you know, I think you get to know those people along that journey. And, you know, I almost feel like it becomes more of a family type event that goes on. Like, you have this big group of people, but you've been, you know, with these chats and stuff, you really get to know people. And so on the chats, we do get into some discussions that, you know, have more personal sides to people's stories. And it's always nice to hear, you know, it's always nice to chat about other things besides the music and get to know people on a one-on-one basis.
Weirdest thing that somebody's ever told you on there?
Oh, man, there's some strange stuff, but, you know what? Let's come back to that question at the end. I'm going to think that through.
But I guess, you know what, that goes to show what Canadian artists and Canadians are about anyway. There's that friendliness, there's that welcoming, and we see that coast to coast to coast, almost anywhere you go, except Toronto because, you know. But that really does speak to what Canada is all about, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. You know, every time I leave, you know, anywhere in Canada, you know, you're walking down the street and, you know, people are saying hi to each other, and it's that friendliness that, you know, makes me, again, proud to be from here. And that's, you know, my shows, and when I'm at a live show and putting on a concert, like, that's one of my things is I want everybody at the concert to feel welcome there and to feel a part of that show. And, you know, being from here makes that really easy to do.
Wear a Canadian flag, wear a maple leaf, show it somewhere on your backpack, on your shirt, on your hat, whatever, and you'll be fine. That just puts me at ease when I go somewhere.
Yeah, you know, I've heard that too, and so there you go. There, it's everybody kind of knows it. You know, even some of the people from the States, you know, when you talk to them on the phone, and they right away know you're from Canada when you say please and thank you on the phone, and, you know, are courteous, and so it's quite good. I think it's a great thing that we're known for that.
So what are you working on now? You've got some new music that came out a couple months ago. What's happening for the rest of the summer?
Yeah, so the single's out. It's called You Won't Sleep Tonight. First single off the upcoming album, which is going to be released this fall. Summer, we got a bunch of tour dates. I've been doing actually a trio show, which is 3 of us in the band. And we got a percussion player, a lead guitar player, and myself. And we've been having a lot of fun with that. It's, you know, more of an interactive show. We get the crowd involved quite a bit. So we've been touring with that show a lot, and we plan to continue doing that this year. And when the album comes out in the fall, obviously I'll have release parties and then plan some tours across the country to promote that album and get out and visit everybody.
We have 1 minute, but 2 things to take care of. Weirdest thing somebody's ever told you, and Happy Canada Day as an Aussie.
Yeah, man, I guess some of the weirdest stuff would be like some of the photos I get, you know what I mean, of people in their, you know what I mean, like just wearing their underwear or whatever it might be. There's some, you know what I mean? There's some strange things like that happen, which is pretty interesting sometimes. I'd have to say that's probably the weirdest stuff.
Well, now I'm embarrassed. You weren't supposed to tell everybody about that, Codie. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's all right.
Well,
that's all right.
And finally, your Canada Day greeting.
G'day, mate. Can't wait to see you guys out on the tour.
We're gonna end it right there, I think, Codie. It was a good attempt. He's a trooper, everybody. I put him on the spot. Well, Codie Prevost, happy Canada Day, and thanks for spending the holiday with us today.
Hey, thank you greatly, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Celebrating everything we love about Canada. Basically anything that sets us apart from the United States. This is Canada Day Live with Jeremy Bradley. Happy 150, Canucks.
Jeremy Bradley here again. Happy Canada Day, everybody, and thanks for tuning in at CanadaDayLive.ca. You know, on paper, this was a 150-minute broadcast. I can now tell you at this very moment, we are at the 150-minute mark. But here's the deal. The best parties don't end on time. We are still going to chat with Terri Clark, Dean Brody, Jona Barr, and relive our memories from Jasper, Alberta, Dawson City, and Whitehorse. It's all coming up. Let's continue on Canada Day Live. Canada Day Live continues here at CanadaDayLive.ca. We're heading to cowboy country now, and this stop in Alberta is brought to you by the Scribble Podcast. Your weekly dose of time-wasting fun. Join us as we chat about current events, pop culture, and talk with celebrity guests hawking their goods. It's the Scribble Podcast at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Have a listen at thescribbleshow.com. After this show, of course. Well, let's get a little bit country, and you know what, a little bit rock and roll. Country music superstar, I hope you're not offended, Terri Clark, you're joining us on the line. Happy Canada Day, Terri.
I'm never offended by being called a superstar, maybe a little overinflated, but thank you.
Well, no problem. Well, thanks for spending the holiday with us. We appreciate your time.
Well, it's good to be here. I'm honored to be a part of this. Thank you for asking.
Well, no problem. So I've actually got to figure out where you are, because, you know, you were originally from Montreal, right, and then grew up in Alberta, the home of Canadian country music, really, and then you moved to Nashville, right?
That's correct. I moved to Nashville in 1987, so I've been getting around quite a bit in my life, but, you know, I've been in Nashville for 30 years, a Tennessee resident, but I also have a place up in Ontario, so I spend a lot of my summers, a lot of time in the summer in Canada, so I haven't ventured very far from my roots.
I was going to say, you are still a true Canadian girl at heart.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I've got to ask you, though, do you celebrate Canada Day more or 4th of July more? Like, what's your summer holidays?
Well, I'm usually in Canada, so obviously I celebrate Canada Day more. I've shown up at some local parties around my cottage where people hire a local band and jumped up on stage in my Canada Day hat.
Of course.
Like a fool, and sung with a band and you know, participating in the fireworks and bonfires and celebrating our birthday, you know, and this year it's a special one because it's 150 years old. So this is a big birthday party this year.
I was going to say, we look damn good for 150, though, don't we?
No kidding. I mean, come on. I mean, nobody's looked better. No facelifts, no plastic surgery, nothing.
It's all natural. It's all natural.
That's our country, all natural.
Of course.
All maple syrup.
That's what does it, a nice base of that. When you were growing up, though, in Canada, you had your sights set on Nashville very early on. Why was that?
I did. You're correct. Part of it was due to a lot of advice I got from local musicians around Alberta, Medicine Hat, and musicians and artists on a national level that kind of looked back on their careers and had wished they'd taken, you know, jumped for that brass ring. Country music's everywhere, but Nashville is the mecca, and that's the epicenter of country music. And if you want to be a singer-songwriter in this genre, the best place to go to see if you've got what it takes, you're going to find out really quick, is Nashville. Or not so quick sometimes, but I got a lot of advice from people, and my mom, who was sort of mentoring me at the time, and really my steadfast companion and friend, and had a lot of faith in me, was talking to a lot of people about, you know, getting advice as what to do with this girl who wanted to be a country singer, and that was the thing we heard over and over again. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I ventured out and moved to Nashville, when I was 18.
That's got to be scary, though, but exciting.
It was terrifying, and there were a few collect phone calls, because that was back before we had these cell
Right.
phones.
Yeah.
There were a few collect phone calls to home, crying and wanting to come home, and, my mom said, I don't want you to be sitting there at 50 wondering what would have happened if you'd have tried this, so just stick it out. If you still want to come home in a year, great. She didn't tell me I couldn't come home, but she definitely encouraged me to give it my best shot and an honest shot, and it was very hard. I was very lonely, scared, didn't know very many people. I didn't have a green card, so I couldn't even get a job. I was living off of tips, that I made playing at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge on Lower Broadway and taking the city bus down there. So it was a character building time, and I don't think I'd be who I was without it. But I don't know if I could do it again.
Well, in 20 years when you turn 50, Terri.
You're my new best friend.
Yeah. But, you've worked with a lot of people. There's some huge names, obviously, in Nashville. So, it's not very Canadian of us, but name drop a little bit. Come on, it's time to brag.
Oh, the people I've recorded with, just even that over the years, people like Vince Gill and Alison Krauss, Emmylou Harris. I've gotten to do duets with Dirk Bentley and Tanya Tucker and Reba. There have been some amazing moments in my career. Becoming an Opry member was the pinnacle, the hugest thing. Being representing women from Canada at the Opry is definitely something that I hold very dear and near to my heart and approach with tremendous responsibility because it's important. So there's been a lot of tours that I've been on, and touring with George Strait and Toby Keith and Reba and Brooks and Dunn, and it's been a ride. Let me tell you, I don't know if I could top it at this point or what's next, but it's there have been several moments, so a lot of pinch me moments where I can't believe I'm standing here talking to this person or having dinner with this person, or that this person's in my phone. I could just pick up the phone and call Reba. Now, don't go steal my phone, everybody, but things like that are crazy to me, and I just am astonished and humbled by it all.
Never mind, I was going to put you on the spot and have you call Reba right now, get her on the air, but we don't have time for that.
Yeah, if I do that, I may not get to call her again. I'm going to go ahead and change my number now, Terri Clark. When you call me, you put me on the air. That goes through management.
Did you all hear that? We just had Reba on the phone. That was, uncanny. That was uncanny.
That's my best shot.
But, I think that a lot of artists discover that it's not as easy having a hit record in the U.S. as it is in Canada. And maybe times are changing, I'm not sure. Because an album can go gold or platinum in this country, and it can have completely different reaction to consumers in the States.
Right. There's just there seems to be a bit of a disconnect or a lack of recognition for some reason. And, I think a lot of Canadian artists realize this and they get it. And I think any Canadian artist that could have American success would give their eye teeth to do so. I think it's definitely the feather in the cap that we all want. And not everybody has achieved or gotten to that point yet. It seemed to me like the 90s were the decade where that happened, and then it just sort of stopped, that crossover to the American charts thing. And I would sure love to see somebody do it again soon. Somebody's got to do it, and it will happen again. It's just been a really long time since it has. And in the era of Shania, becoming the biggest star, the female Garth Brooks of country music, and Paul Brandt and myself and the Wilkinsons all seeming to have some success south of the border, beyond the mid-2000s, it's just sort of tapered off. And there are some great Canadian artists that I'm a big fan of. I love some of the artists that are out there. I love Dean Brody. I love Dallas Smith. We're all friends, and I would love to see one of them, come out of the chute with a big old smash in America. That would definitely put them on the map internationally.
What's awesome about country artists is they're so welcoming and so friendly. You mentioned Dean Brody. He's been on our show, and we were just in his dressing room in Winnipeg, chatting before his concert, and he was answering listener questions. And so there's just this community family vibe that everybody's welcome when you're a country music fan.
Yes.
It's great.
Absolutely. absolutely. And, the one thing I will say is that Canada supports their own like no other country I've ever seen. And the minute I cross the border and go on stage in Canada, I know that I'm home, and it means so much to me. And I know that a lot of Canadian artists that are having tremendous success in our country of Canada, would love, although they would love to have the American hit, are making a fine living and doing very well because of the fan support that they get in Canada. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people have had very lucrative careers just inside our borders, and a lot of support from Canadians across the board. So I think that, although it's nice to have that American feather in your cap of having success here, I think a lot of people are doing just fine without it as well.
Well, I like asking this. What advice would you give someone trying to make it in the music industry these days?
I would say to just surround yourself with people that believe in you and have the same faith in you as you do in yourself, and that see something special in your talent and will guide you and give you advice based on your best interest, not theirs. And that's the best advice I could give anybody. I didn't get my record deal into where I was alone. I had people that believed in me along the way, and it's not always music business people. Sometimes it's family members or a spouse or, people that just can help prop you up and lift you up in your down times, because there are going to be plenty of them. It's not all roses. It's hard and there are tough times, and you just have to keep forging ahead. It's kind of like laying the foundation of a house and building the house brick by brick. That's the way it happens, and you need a good construction crew with you to help you do that.
What was the biggest lesson you learned?
The biggest lesson I've learned, live in the moment. Don't get too far ahead of yourself in the future, and don't look back too much, because you're going to miss what's going on right now. I think that's the biggest, and I'm still struggling with that because I'm a planner, and I like to live way far ahead and make lists and plan out everything I'm doing in the year 2024 now, and I got to learn to live in the moment. And I'm getting better than I was at it, but it's a slow learning process and baby steps. But that's one thing I wish I had enjoyed and relished the moments more, especially in the heyday when things were just exploding and everything was, I was so worried about hanging on to it. I don't think I enjoyed it in the moment that I had. So that's the greatest lesson I can bring from all of it.
If anyone's just tuning in, we've got Terri Clark here. She's going to be getting us Reba and Shania on the phone momentarily, so stand by for that. No?
Stop that.
No, it's not happening?
Raising expectations.
Okay. All
You're
right.
raising the expectations I cannot meet.
Oh, well, you know what? I've got to ask you then, what do we see happening in year 150, 151? What are you working on? What's on the go?
I am doing a lot of touring. I'm making new music. I am thinking about writing a book, but that's very beginning talking stages. But there's a lot going on. I'm recording a radio show in Nashville called Country Gold, and it's all very 90s focused, and I interview artists from that era. My friends and peers, I interview new artists. A lot of them I get backstage at the Opry when I'm there, and I interview them for the show, and we talk about 90s country and how it influenced them. So that keeps me busy, plus touring. I'm doing between 50 and 80 shows a year still. A lot of stuff this summer. I'm playing the Stan Fest, the Stan Rogers Festival, my first folk festival in Nova Scotia this summer. I'm headlining that one night. So lots of fun, new, interesting things keeping me busy and branched out and trying things. I'm writing songs. I'm going to record some new music this summer, so it's all very exciting. And I'm working with the guy that co-produced Fearless with me, which may stand as my favorite album I've ever made. So far, that's the album that No Fear came from, and his name's Stuart Smith, and he's an incredible arranger, guitar player. He's out with the Eagles. That's what he's been doing the last 15 years or so, and he's taken some time out to help me with this project on the creative end, so I'm very excited about that.
I'm tired just hearing about it, and,
Yeah.
Well, no, we appreciate you taking the time and your busy schedule and spending Canada Day with us. So, Terri Clark, thank you so much for calling in today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeremy. Happy Canada Day, everybody.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Well, all that talk about Nashville with Terri Clark, we're going to stay in Alberta with some snowy forecast. When I was there for Pride, they were celebrating their 5th anniversary of Pride a couple years ago in Jasper, and we were invited to broadcast from the festivities. And I have to tell you, I had never been to a Pride event before. But it was so different than what I expected. It was so family-friendly and loving and warm and welcoming. Now, a big part of that could have been that it was with Canadians, right? We know that's how people view us. But it was so great that love is love, and it doesn't matter who you love, it matters that you love, is a saying that they instilled in me when I was there. I go into these trips and broadcasts open-minded, of course, and I wasn't sure that I was going to have a good time, but it was great. We went snowshoeing and skiing and ice walking, and it was an incredible time there. And so I have to say, it wasn't like you see on television, right? When you watch the news and you have the big parade and the flamboyancy and the over-the-top, I think that the LGBT community gets a reputation of being like that. And to a certain extent, Pride is like that in many locations, and that's people expressing themselves. It's people wanting to be over the top sometimes. And for some people, it's just an opportunity for them to be who they are. And never more did I feel that way in Jasper when I was there, because you had young, old, white, black, brown, you had every different ethnicity, culture, religion, background in Jasper. And it was just so cool that it was almost like it wasn't a Pride event. It was almost just like a community gathering. We're all just going to go skiing. We're all going to this film festival. We're all going and doing these things. And the gay element, the gay and lesbian element, wasn't overpowering. It was just this sense of community and love, and it was so cool to be there, and especially that it was in spring. I think it was the end of March. So the weather was nice, the mountains so picturesque. As I've been mentioning all show, you can go to our website, canadadaylive.ca, and you can click and see the highlights from it, canadadaylive.ca. There was quite a funny moment, though, when we do these travel broadcasts. If it's an event like this, we also kind of do some other segments showcasing local businesses and things that aren't necessarily part of the initial excursion. And so when I was staying at the Jasper Park Lodge, shout out to our friends there, I was booked at the spa, and I was having a massage treatment there. And it was something like I'd never experienced before. Here's what happened. You know how you'll have you're laying down and you're hearing the trickling music or the trickling water and the music overhead and the lights are dimmed and it's just relaxing. Sometimes the massage therapist is talking to you, but I think they sort of take the cues. If you're not talking, they kind of just shut up. And it was so relaxing, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, the fire alarm starts going. Can you believe that? That has got to be the worst thing in the world. Now, here's the deal. I don't normally have massages in the nude. Yes, you're covered in a towel, or right? You've got that over top of you. And most of the time I go in my underwear. For some reason, and I'm trying to remember why I did. I'm not quite sure, but I happened to be nude this one time. And the fire alarm, that's probably why it went, right? Is because I was naked under the sheet. And so the woman, she's doing the massage, and then she's kind of like, oh, wow, that's not good. And then she just continued on, and there's a part of me that was like, can we go and check if everything's okay? Because I was kind of taught that when you hear the fire alarm, you get out of there as fast as humanly possible. And so she excused herself, and I thought, well, I should sit up, I should go and put my robe on, just in case we have to evacuate and run for our lives. But again, I just laid there. I'm like, you know what? I would hear commotion. If there was something bad happening, I would hear people running, and there would be a lot of stuff going on in the hallways. So she comes back a few seconds later, and she's like, oh, it's all fine. Everything's good. And apparently this happens not frequently, but I guess it happens regularly enough that people sort of wait, the staff or whoever, people that are there quite often, kind of just wait for further instruction until they're, oh yes, this is an emergency, get out. And so we continued on with the massage. Now the funny thing is that I was taping an interview after the fact, and there's a part of me that's going, should I bring this up? Should I not bring this up? Because it was funny. Obviously, it wasn't their fault that this happened. It was something that happened at the hotel, not right in the spa, but naturally it's the same building, so fire alarm goes off. But it was a good laugh. And so what happened after was I tweeted the hotel as a joke what happened, right? Like, oh, great massage, but unfortunately, fire alarm, blah, blah, blah. And they replied, as good PR folks would. They apologized and everything. And I said, that's fine, but I'm taking the robe from the spa. And I actually did. I don't know. I think maybe it came across as a joke, but I actually stole the robe from the spa. Don't tell our friends in Jasper, Alberta. I'm never allowed back there because I'm now a criminal. Go to CanadaDayLive.ca if you want to check out the fun from Jasper, Alberta. CanadaDayLive.ca.
Trans fat free, gluten free, and only 10 calories per serving. It's the Scribble Podcast with Jeremy Bradley. Every week, JB serves up a dash of humor with a side of sarcasm at thescribbleshow.com. From current events to scandalous entertainment stories, The Scribble is 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. With cheapskate tips and celebrity guests, JB keeps you informed about what's not important in the world. The Scribble Podcast at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
The only guy who tries to leave Canadian Tire money as a tip. Here's your host of Canada Day Live, Cheapskate, Jeremy Bradley.
Canada Day Live continues. It's time to showcase British Columbia now. This West Coast Music Spotlight is brought to you by Canada Dry, a part of Canada's story since John J. McLaughlin first created his famous pale ginger ale in 1904. Pick up one of Canada Dry's 6 commemorative cans for the perfect complement to this weekend's celebrations. I have one in front of me right now. Check out more about the country's favorite ginger ale at canadadry.ca. We're celebrating the music of BC in Ottawa. That's where country music's Dean Brody is gearing up for a show in the nation's capital. And Dean, it seems like just a couple weeks ago we were broadcasting from your dressing room before a concert in Winnipeg. Happy Canada Day to you.
How you doing, Jeremy?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, man. Happy Canada Day to you, too.
So all show, we have been talking about Canadian artists' favorite music and inspirations. I have to have you sum up Canada 150, this country in the world of music. Go.
Amazing music and amazing musicians that have come out of this country. It's kind of amazing. Like, I think per capita, we've got to be up there as far as like the arts and creative talents that have come out of this country.
When you were growing up, so long before you started singing professionally, what Canadian music did you appreciate? Who did you look up to?
I remember Bryan Adams was big for me, like on the radio, but also like he was my first like artist that I saw on a stage, connecting with his audience, and I just remember thinking, wow, he's like separated from all of us. I think it was probably 30,000 of us in the field, and yet he was able to connect with us at the same time. It was so cool, and he had somebody from the audience come up with him and sing with him, and so yeah, Bryan Adams, I'd say, was probably one of my biggest Canadian influences as a kid.
Do you think he helped you sort of become who you are? Like, did you take anything away from what he puts into his music? Because as you're saying, he really makes it personal and gives it his all.
Yeah, for sure. If I could say there's one thing I got from watching him perform that day, it was just like, wow, like, he really was himself up on stage. And that's hard to do, like, when you're facing thousands of people, and it's really hard to be your authentic self and to be vulnerable like that. But I saw it and I was like, okay, it's okay to be that way on stage. You don't have to always be like this larger than life character. You can just be yourself, and people will appreciate you for that.
Well, so now it's you up there and having your fans screaming. Is it what you envisioned it to be? Is it what you thought would happen?
Not at all, man. Like, I moved to Nashville to write songs. Like, I've always been a pretty quiet, reserved person, and the last place I would have envisioned myself, especially as a kid, would have been on a stage in front of people. Like, that would have been my nightmare, but I got used to it. Like, I started playing clubs in Nashville and singing my own songs and stuff, and it just naturally just progressed to stages, and the stages got bigger, the music spread further, and all of a sudden, like, here we are, having these, tours and people coming out and singing songs with us. It's awesome.
When it comes to country music, Nashville is huge. We just had Terri Clark on the show talking. She's lived there for 30 years. She mentioned that's sort of like the mecca of country music. You want inspiration. You want to see what it's like, get involved, meet people, rub elbows. What was it for you? Because you spent a bit of time living there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can songwrite. For me, it's songwriting. Like, I had to go to a place where I could be around a lot of creative people. And yeah, for me, that was Nashville. Like, that's where, if you're into country music, that's where a lot of people go. I'd say that's where most people go. Like, if it's rock, it's probably LA or New York or Toronto. I'm not sure, But as far as country music goes, it's Nashville. And there's just thousands of people there. They're trying to write songs. And they come from where you come from, same kind of background. And so for me, it just made sense to hone my craft as a songwriter to move to Nashville.
It's interesting. We've been hearing all show today that there used to be a separation between Canada and the U.S. Canadian artists kind of stayed in Canada, American artists stayed there, and now there's this crossover, right? And what is the reception like? You just said thousands and thousands of people are trying to hone their craft and make it big and write songs and everything in Nashville because that is the mecca. How are Canadians received there? What did you experience?
Oh, yeah, super warm reception in Nashville. Like, I had friends from Oklahoma, California, Texas, everywhere, every state imaginable, I think.
So you've lived in the States, you've lived in several places in Canada. What keeps you living in this country? There's some days where I go, I need to get away from Winnipeg. And I get to do that a lot because I travel for work. I'm a lot of times in Los Angeles or Toronto. But home is still Winnipeg. It's still Canada. What keeps you here?
I think you hit on something there, man. Like, if you've traveled abroad, you feel that sense of displacement. And for me, that's definitely what Nashville was. Like, I loved it. If you came home, some of my best friends in life are Americans because I lived there for 6 years. But you always have this sense of not totally belonging. And when you go back home, especially if you've been away for a while, you go back home and you cross the border. Doesn't matter if it's, from Montana going into BC or from Maine going into New Brunswick. You just feel all of a sudden when you get across that border that you're home. It's a weird thing, but it's just something that's a part of me, I think a part of every Canadian. And you don't necessarily realize it. I know I didn't until I actually went and lived somewhere else and then came home.
So let's help somebody out here. If they have never been to Canada before, maybe they're even coming for vacation, don't know what to expect. Set the tone for them. What are they in for? And we have to make it clear, there's no Canadian accents. I don't care what people say. We don't have accents, do we? No.
We don't when we're in Canada.
No.
But yeah, I would say expect space. I know people that have come up here that go, wow, it's just everything it's just fresh air, clear sky, just a sense of openness and even wildness still. I think a lot of other countries, like, they're just they've been discovered, but like in Canada, there's so much raw land and rugged terrain that just nobody even sets foot on. And so I think people recognize that right away. Even in our highways, like the highways that join our cities together, they're just, expect peacefulness, and I would say space would be a big thing. And I think a welcomeness. I think we're known around the world for being hospitable and a gentle, like, peaceful people. So, yeah.
Well,
expect a good holiday, I'd say.
Well, for sure. Now, I know, of course, people from all over the country have descended on Ottawa now for Canada Day, so it's going to be a wild time. How do you normally celebrate Canada Day? Is it just, a beer in the backyard? Are you usually on tour? Do you have a tradition? Like, what's your typical Canada Day? Is there a typical Canada Day for you?
Yeah, I'd say the last 6 years we're on tour, so we're usually playing Canada Day, like a festival somewhere in some town or some city. Like, we're usually working on July 1st, which is a good thing. So normally, we have a beer, maybe a couple, and we hit the stage and just have a good night.
What are you looking forward to this year for Canada's big 150th birthday?
I think just being in our nation's capital is going to be really cool. I don't think I've ever been in Ottawa on July 1st on our birthday. So for the 150th, like, it's going to be pretty cool. And
what else do you have on the go? I know the beautiful Freak Show tour. What's coming up the rest of the year?
I'm doing a lot of writing right now, and trips to Nashville, and just, I've worked with my producer, Matt Roby, who's out of Tennessee, and we've been working on a lot of stuff, and we have to record it, which is another thing, but as far as the songwriting goes, we're there. Just getting ready to do some more, things that we can't really reveal at this point right now, but I might be in for another move. I don't know. My life, it's hard to follow for sure.
Well, your fans, though, they do follow along on social media, though, right? That's a good way to keep in touch with you.
It is, absolutely. Instagram, Facebook.
Be sure to check it out. Follow along with Dean Brody. And again, thanks for joining us. Happy Canada Day to you, Dean.
Yeah, happy Canada Day to you, Jeremy. Thanks for taking the call, and have an awesome day.
Dean Brody on Canada Day Live is brought to you by Canada Dry. Check out more about the country's favorite ginger ale at canadadry.ca.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at canadadaylive.ca.
Canada Day Live continues. It's crazy to think we have traveled the country this afternoon. And our last stop is in Yukon, and it's brought to you by ShopErnie.com. Everybody loves a cute golden retriever. Ernie and his best friend Basil have the perfect greeting card for your next occasion. See them dressed in their tuxedos or giving you those sad, adorable puppy eyes. You're sure to get a smile out of Ernie and Basil at ShopErnie.com. Check out the selection at ShopErnie.com. Well, thanks for spending Canada Day with us. Here's a fun fact for you. Aside from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Yukon is the second most visited destination that we have broadcast from on our syndicated radio shows. It's true, we were up in Dawson for the Dawson City Music Festival a couple of years ago. I was emceeing on stage, and just in February we were at the Sourdough Rendezvous Festival, 3 times in total. We experienced some great culture and music every time we're there, so it's great to welcome Old Cabin's Jona Barr on the line from Whitehorse.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I think that's the longest introduction. Let me just catch my breath. But we do have some great times when we're up there in Yukon. And I should say Happy Canada Day as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you too.
Well, thank you. Now, so you know better than anyone else that Northern Canada has some really great music. The music scene is incredible. Probably unlike anywhere else in the world. And I know you've performed in Dawson as well. The talent up north. Describe the music scene to us.
Oh, man. It's great. It's, man, I don't know. Okay. It's, yeah. This is hard. Describe the music scene. It's, there's a lot of young people, kind of coming up, which is great. We've got a lot of new bands, touring. There's, a band called Soda Pony that I think we'll be ripping it up this summer. As well as Declan O'Donovan's another hometown guy. That is Kim Baggs, Kim Barlow. There's quite a few musicians. It's great.
Now that was smooth, by the way. That was great. But so for someone who lives, let's say far east in this country and might not know who or what Old Cabin is, give them a quick rundown. Is Old Cabin a band or not a band?
No, it's the name that I used for my solo project instead of my name. It's the solo performer name.
Which I was going to say is not quite traditional, but your music sort of is, right? It's got that classic sound that people love, and it resonates with audiences. More and more generations of people are enjoying and appreciating that.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, it's well, I grew up my dad's a folk country singer, so I grew up around folk bluegrass music. So I think at the core it's folk music, but with a little bit more kind of psychedelic tinged. That's kind of where it's going, I think. It changes.
Well, what's next for you then? Do you have any new music that you're working on? Any tour dates? What's on the go this summer?
Yeah, actually, I'll be touring later this month in Ontario. So we're going to be doing dates in Ottawa, Montreal, Guelph, I think, Hamilton. We're playing at the Harbourfront Centre in Toronto for a Northern Passages festival. So that's pretty exciting. And then hopefully we're releasing another record in 2018. So yeah, we're working on a new album right now.
Well, that's awesome. So you're touring the country, and I know you've been everywhere, and it's a great country. Again, happy birthday, everybody. But I'll admit, the first time that I was up in Yukon, I had no idea what to expect. And not that I come from a huge city, but it's still significantly larger than Whitehorse anyway. How would you describe the people in the area and the vibe when you come into town?
I think it's pretty great. I mean, I grew up here, so like when you grow up in it's so small, you kind of know everybody. So it's definitely it's pretty welcoming. It's still, everybody nods and waves at each other as they walk by. It still has like a pretty small town vibe.
And it's a real friendliness. And so I'm from Manitoba. Our license plates say Friendly Manitoba. But I find that there's pockets in the country. So I mean, the East Coast, again, people very, very nice, and then people up in Yukon just genuinely have a good heart. Very helpful people, very welcoming, very hospitable. We've found.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're pretty secluded, so and you kind of have to be nice.
Well, but part of that seclusion, though, the scenery is incredible. We've got some shots, again, from our website. It's from the Dome in Dawson. So, I mean, if you love nature, it's definitely a great place to be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's way more nature than people.
And so what's a Canada Day like there? Because, again, like I said, we were at Sourdough Rendezvous, and there were some, axe throwing and chainsaws. What happens at Canada? How do you upstage? How can you outdo the Sourdough Rendezvous Festival?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know. They do, every community kind of has, their own little parade.
Right.
I think, Watson Lake has, a pretty crazy shindig that they throw. Whitehorse, I know, this year they're having, July Talk up from Toronto. There's a bunch of local bands playing. I think they're doing, 24 hours of, entertainment. So it's supposed to be, it's pretty rad.
Oh my. Okay, so one place to go in Yukon and one thing to do. What would you recommend to somebody who's visiting the area?
Oh boy. Well, I think it would depend what they want to do. Most people they want to see the Northern Lights. Mm-hmm. So come up in February if you want to do that. If you want to go hiking, I'd say go to the Tombstones. It's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. Dawson City Music Fest, Atlin, that's in BC, but that is also a really great music fest. Kind of anywhere. It's pretty great.
Well, and let's plug a few of our sites, because we've got the highlights from Dawson City Music Festival at dawson.jbonair.com. We've got the Sourdough Rendezvous highlights at winter.jbonair.com, and then all over Whitehorse at yukon.jbonair.com. Hey, if we're plugging all these artists, we've got to get our own stuff in there too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, what's the website and social media and everything that people can be in touch with Old Cabin that's not a band?
Oh, just oldcabin.ca.
Okay. You'll have updates about your different tour dates and albums and things on there as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well,
Facebook. Facebook is pretty easy.
It is, yeah. Yes, it's very easy to find people and stay in touch. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us from Whitehorse, Yukon, and spending the holiday with us. Happy Canada Day to you, Jona.
Yeah, you too.
Celebrate more Canadian music now at CanadaDayLive.ca.
Talking with Jona about Yukon, I can't help but take a walk down memory lane. As I mentioned, our syndicated radio shows have broadcast from the area 3 times, most recently in February when we were there for the Sourdough Rendezvous Festival. It's definitely something that I've never experienced before. And like I said, there was axe throwing and there was a burlesque show. The first night that we were there, we went to a burlesque show. Again, something I've never seen before. I met the queen of the festival. There was a great parade, lots of community spirit. There was an ice sculpture contest with teams from all over the world, and it was great talking with some of them from Asia and from Mexico, and even the local team from Yukon, and it was just fun. And I think that as adults, we just don't have as much fun anymore as we should. Right? I saw an interview with John Cleese years ago, and he was talking about how we just don't laugh. You laugh when you're a kid. You laugh in church when you're not supposed to because it's wrong, right? So that makes you laugh harder. And so the Sourdough Rendezvous Festival was just all about fun. In the parade, you've got people walking their dogs. There were even contests for pets, and there was a talent show, and it was an incredible time. Outside of the city, I stayed at a private cabin on the water and overlooking the mountains. It was great, and I went dog sledding. I've got 2 dogs at home, and I thought, this is going to be fun. They're going to be jealous when I get home. But it was incredible how these dogs, we were running, they were out for 3 hours. We would stop for about 5 or 10 minutes for us to have a bit of hot chocolate or tea or something to warm up. But the dogs were raring to go. Like, they just did not want to stop. And so we've got a whole bunch of pictures and even video from dog sledding on our website. So check it out, canadadaylive.ca, canadadaylive.ca. Now, also outside the city of Whitehorse is a place called Dawson City. And we were there for the Dawson City Music Festival. I emceed, as I mentioned, and in the summer, it didn't get dark until about 3 or 4 in the morning, if I recall correctly. Now, I'm one of those people that I'm in bed, typically 9:30, 10, maybe 11 on a good night. And so for here, you've got this music festival happening until 1, 2 in the morning, but it doesn't feel like it because it's still light out. It really messes with your body, but it's kind of cool at the same time. And so in Dawson, there's also a place called The Dome. And so outside of Dawson City Music Festival, when we were there taping that show, as I mentioned earlier, we go on location and do some other shoots for a secondary show. And we did that. So we went up to The Dome, which overlooks the entire area. And if you want picturesque, scenic landscapes, you go to The Dome. And so we weren't doing a live segment at that time. We were just going to be recording something. And there's a few other cars and other people up there. But I happened to see people kind of like creeping around a corner. And it's basically an elevated hill. I don't want to say mountain because that puts an expectation that's very, very high. Maybe it could be considered, I'm not sure. But anyway, so around the bend, we weren't at the topmost point. There were kind of people like peering around the side, and I was like, okay, something's going down. What is happening? It wasn't in a suspicious way, but it was like, okay, there's like something cool about to happen. And we were there. One of my producers and 2 of the tourism folks were there escorting us around. And we caught 2 guys proposing to their girlfriends. These were friends. 2 couples getting engaged at the exact same time. So not only were the families there hiding, and they were there for the surprise, all of a sudden you've got this radio guy from Winnipeg coming up and who has no idea who they are, but wants to get the segment because, come on, you couldn't script this. We are here for a proposal. Like, come on. And so all of a sudden I'm just like, hey, we're doing a radio show in town. Can I talk with you guys? You just got engaged literally a minute and a half ago. But I want to talk to you on the radio about this. And they were game. I think they probably would have felt dickish if they said no. But it was just kind of really cool that we were there for this moment. And apparently one of the tourism folks did know one of the people in the couple. See, that's the great thing about these small towns is that everybody knows everybody. Or it could also be a bad thing, I guess, depending on who you are and what you do. But, and I had said, we need to find out when these couples are getting married. 1, because I want an invitation to go. And 2, I think it would be really cool if we arranged a honeymoon for them. Because, again, we've got these connections with tourism boards and whatever, and this would be really cool that we were there for this moment. And we weren't able to track them down because apparently they don't live in the area anymore, and they were there, I guess, as kind of like a family reunion sort of a trip, and we weren't able to track down either of the couples. And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a second. If one honeymoon trip, if we were paying for a part of it is one thing, I'm a cheapskate, and we're not paying for 2 trips. They better honeymoon together then. But no, it would have been a great gesture, I think, but unfortunately just never happened. So all of the highlights from our Dawson City and our Whitehorse activities is online at canadadaylive.ca. That's our website, and again, we're live streaming, and thanks so much for spending your Canada Day with us.
Celebrating everything we love about Canada. Basically anything that sets us apart from the United States. This is Canada Day Live with Jeremy Bradley. Happy 150, Canucks.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is Canada Day Live. I want to wish you all a very happy Canada Day. Canada 150. It's going to be a great rest of the year. And feel free to give me a shout. My email address, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Now, if you didn't catch the entire show, don't worry. We're going to have the entire thing downloadable at canadadaylive.ca this weekend, so stay tuned, and thanks again for following us on Twitter at Canada Day Live, and me at Jeremy D. Bradley, at Jeremy D. Bradley. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is Canada Day Live. Have a good one, everybody. Happy Canada Day.